What can they say now? What are they gonna say now? Check the time. I want everybody to check the time. What are they gonna say now? What can you guys say now? Huh? They can't say anything. They got nothing to say. What are you guys gonna say now? Huh? Oh, I missed this color spread. The color spread's cool with the spiral. I like what Oda did with Navi here. Okay. Early. Yeah, I like people saying I'm early. Because technically I'm late, but it's early by usual standards, like, right? Okay, everybody like the stream because we're on time/early. Let's get it to 100 likes real quick. Also, bigger deal, what the fuck was this chapter? This is what I'm talking about. This is the type of thing that I'm excited about, which is that I thought that we were drifting away from it a little bit, but this has been going on for all of Egghead Island, right? We start the arc. So usually, right, old school Oda, which is great. We loved it when it was like this, right? But it's just cool that it's changed for the finale, right? Old school Oda, you get the outside world stuff, arc starts, focus on the Straw Hats, arc ends, you get some more outside world stuff, right? New school Oda, final saga Oda, doesn't give a fuck. It's all happening at the same time. That's so cool. Because, think about it. Egghead Island starts. It seems like we're done with the outside world stuff. We got to see a bit of Blackbeard. We got to see a bit of Crossguild. We got to see a bit of Im, right? Egghead Island starts. Cool. We've all accepted we're in a new arc. It's about Vegapunk. Exciting. We don't need all that other stuff now, right? We think. But then what's going on? The arc's rolling. Who's this? It's Law, and he's fighting Blackbeard. The Blackbeard pirates are fighting the Heart Pirates at the same time as the Straw Hats are doing stuff. This shit never happens. We never cut away like that. We don't get to see the full fight. That's okay. But then a little later, what's going on? Garp's off to fight Blackbeard now. And then kids showing up at Elbaf. And then some stuff's going on with Kuma at Marijua. That's kind of crazy. And then we cut away. We're like, okay, we don't get to see all that. Few chapters later, why are we're seeing Shanks at Elbaf, about to, like, kid rolling up on Shanks at Elbaf? Why are we seeing Shanks right now? We're in the middle of Egghead Island. This is so cool. This is what I'm so happy about with the final saga rolling, which is it seems like Oda is not hesitating to switch scenes a lot, because there's no point in holding back, because everything's supposed to be happening simultaneously. We're not supposed to be waiting anymore for the end of an arc for outside world stuff to happen, right? Everything's supposed to be happening at the same time. That's so cool. Behenot says, you saying I love murder mysteries made me wonder if you'd love Umineko. It's basically what if murder mystery and fantasy battle shonen had a kid. Everyone says I should watch/read Umineko. The thing is, I looked it up last time. It's a game. It's a game, right? It's a game. I don't want to play a game. I don't even know what this is. A Dojin Soft, a software. A Dojin Soft is a software created by Japanese hobbyists or hobbyist groups, more for fun than for profit. I don't want to play a game. I'm already playing a game. I'm playing Dark Souls, and that shit is driving me fucking insane. Fucking insane. Dark Souls is way harder than Sekiro. I'll say that right now. Not in terms of combat. Combat isn't the main problem with Dark Souls. It's everything else. It's everything else. Hurrying Lyrics, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 1 month. Morj, do you think there's any chance that Kid won't fight Shanks? I think that there's a chance that Kid won't fight Shanks right now. There could be some delay of game to make them wait for Luffy to arrive or something. Something could happen that's like, okay, we'll settle this at muskets at dawn or some shit like that. I don't know. And by that time, Luffy and the Straw Hats have made their way over to make this, make this meeting more of a three-way, right? Why not have a tricycle, right? So I think that that's the only possibility, because otherwise what we're looking at is most likely Kid getting his ass kicked again, right? Again, for the 50th time. I don't know who hasn't kicked his ass at this point, so he gets his ass kicked again. And then Luffy shows up and fights Shanks, and then we can assume that fight will be more competitive, right? Nobody needs to see that. Nobody needs to see that. So maybe there's some agreement that, like, maybe they come to something like, oh, we shouldn't go to war right here or something on Elbaf. How about we make this more structured? Like, how about we settle this with a duel or something tomorrow morning, and by tomorrow morning the Straw Hats have arrived? I don't know. That's the one thought I have. But yeah, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for a month. Nerve AMV Maker says the most hyped character versus the most downplayed character. If Kid lands an attack on Shanks and hurts him, then the meltdown is going to be insane. Yeah, it's very, very different than Law landing an attack on Blackbeard. That's not to downplay Law. I'm just talking about the types of characters we're working with, right? Shanks throughout the series has been kind of established as the most untouchable character, right? Out of all of the characters, he has the most sort of untouchable presence to him so far, right? Every time he's shown up or moved his sword or done anything or flexed, everything else stops and it goes quiet. That's kind of been Shanks' thing, right? He's done so little but commanded so much respect. He has this untouchable air around him, right? For Kid to be the first character to land anything on Shanks would be a huge deal, right? It would probably hurt Shanks' portrayal in the eyes of many readers, right? Law hitting Blackbeard is very different in that Blackbeard has been portrayed as one of the most touchable characters in the entire series, right? And I know how that sounds, but it is what it is. Everyone can touch up Blackbeard. It doesn't matter. Anyone can touch up Blackbeard. Everybody on their first go-around can land a hit on Blackbeard. Pre-time skip Luffy made Blackbeard cough up blood just by going gear second and throwing a punch at him. It does not mean a lot to hit Blackbeard, right? Again, not to downplay Law. Law did other things in that fight, like clashing with the Guru no Mi, which are undoubtedly a huge deal, right? I'm just saying that there's a very big difference in how the audience is going to feel if we see Kid land an attack on Shanks versus land an attack on Blackbeard. I just don't know how I feel about this situation. I think it's really cool. And one other thing I'd add is that the way that Oda's kind of writing it, the feel that you get reading the scene where Kid and Shanks are rolling up to face each other, it feels like it's going to be another scene that makes Shanks look cool. Like, it makes Shanks look good, right? It feels as though Shanks is being made to give off a vibe that he's very nonplussed by the situation. He's very far above it. I think it would be a little odd if Kid starts fucking him up after this, right? Because, there's just a difference. Like, when you have Kid facing off against Big Mom, it's like Big Mom being all cackling and overconfident and everything like that, and you know that, okay, at the end of the day, Kid and Law are going to be able to overcome her in some way, right? Because she's the one with all this confidence, looking down on them, shit like that. With Shanks, the vibe is very much just like, just a very calm, sage-like presence, just basically like, he doesn't know. This kid doesn't know. He doesn't know what he's in for. Because last time he didn't even get to see me. Last time he didn't get to see my face. Remix King says, update on your Pokemon Adventures reading. It hasn't started. Behenort says, anyway, Punk Records is the culprit all along. Yeah, Punk Records being the culprit would be cool. I think that'd definitely be cool. It also matches a lot of the ideas that have been built up throughout the arc. Would definitely be interesting. And whoever's been doing this has been, the Sharks are also in on it, right? So, we gotta see. John Ross says, I think this arc ends with Luffy deciding to claim Egghead as his territory, and then all the Strahds can take a minute to get some upgrades. The tricky thing is, Egghead is being portrayed more... There's no need... I just don't think Egghead would ever be a territory, because there's no citizens or anything there, right? It would be like Luffy laying claim to all of Vegapunk's stuff. The writing around Egghead has very much been... We're here, we're gonna exit now, right? We're gonna grab Vegapunk and go, right? We're going to grab Vegapunk and go. There's a huge battle that's about to take place here. This isn't the time for that. We're just going to grab him and go. I don't think it's one of those things, like Wano is a territory. Zou is probably a territory. Fishman Island is a territory. Where there are people that, actual nations and things that are friends with Luffy, allies with Luffy, that Luffy wants to protect, islands that he wants to safeguard. I think that's the case. I don't think Egghead falls into that category, in my opinion. But, we can wait and see. Who knows what Luffy's thinking. Guys, let's get the stream likes to 200. That's the next goal. Ali Lubwama, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 5 months. What are your thoughts on the original Vegapunk being locked up? Okay, so my thoughts on the original Vegapunk being locked up is I like that the mystery has deepened, right? So the mystery has deepened. The plot thickens, right? I love the mystery aspect of it, right? I think Punk Records is looking like a good option right now. I'm still partial to the idea that it's other Seraphim. I love that idea. I think this crosses off the Blackbeard Pirates, right? Because how would the Blackbeard Pirates have been doing this for so long, right? So this has been a long-running thing, right? Somebody was talking about it being Edison, because Edison was suspiciously missing for a moment, and then the Seraphims only listened to Edison's order to stop attacking. I would really hope it's not Edison, because that just feels a little random to me. It's like, I can't tell Edison from Pythagoras from, I can tell them apart and everything. It's just, they have so little to their personalities, and we know so little about their characters, it almost feels meaningless. Um, but yeah, I like the idea that it's someone that's been on Punk Hazard for a while. That makes it more interesting than something like the Blackbeard Pirates. So I love the idea that it's been a Doflamingo Seraphim or something like that, but also really like the idea that it's Punk Records. If it's Edison, I hope there's something more to it. One second. The thing with let me read this real quick. I have something I want to say about Kid and Shanks. The Outback Pandas, thank you very much. What kind of buff can Oda give the Kid Pirates? The water theme the Heart Pirates got is so niche, and there's no real equivalent for it on land. Also, I'm praying Vivi is there for when we reunite with Dory and Broggy, or I'll cry. Yeah, okay. So with the Kid Pirates, they are in big need of a buff overall, because right now, they're in big need of a buff. There's the argument that we haven't gotten to see much of them. I think over the course of we haven't gotten to see much of them over the course of the Wano battle because they just didn't get a chance to shine. We saw some stuff from Killer. We did get to see some stuff from Killer, and it wasn't bad. It's just that Killer's portrayal was that he was clearly below Zoro at the time, and that was before Zoro got his Conqueror's Haki buff, right? So Killer was clearly below Zoro at the time, and then Zoro got his Conqueror's Haki buffs, right? So he was lower than Zoro before Zoro was using when you guys get what I'm saying? Like, so the Zoro that already was not even as strong as King, right? That was actually significantly, it seemed like he was out of his league against King. Killer is below that guy. And that's Kid's next strongest member. So we got to kind of keep that in mind. So the thing is, Oda can just write in an improvement for Killer, but then it's like, okay, well, what about all these other guys, right? What about all these other guys? They don't have anything. I would love to see, I don't know where it starts with the Kid Pirates, what they would have to improve on. I do believe that they have stronger individual fighters than the Heart Pirates, so they wouldn't necessarily need a niche, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, their individual fighters are probably good ways away from the level of strength of the Straw Hats, right? So it's a tricky situation. I think at the very least I would love to see Kid develop Advanced Conqueror's Haki soon, maybe this arc. And I think that would be a huge buff for Kid. Maybe Killer gets something in some regard, some new techniques or something that would put him closer to where Zoro's at. I definitely don't think Killer's as strong as Sanji is right now, because again, the very simple way I'd put it is basically you could see from the roof, right? So just from the roof, it was pretty clear. I mean, and they fought. Killer already lost to Zoro once. People will give him the excuse that he didn't have his full sanity and everything like that. It's like, okay, we can give him that excuse, but then even just from the rooftop showings and stuff, it was very clear that Zoro was portrayed as significantly stronger than Killer over the course of that in terms of everything he did. Killer was able to hurt Kaido with a sonic attack, but Zoro was able to hurt Kaido with like real attacks, right? And do shit like stop Kaido and Big Mom's combined attack, right? And leave a permanent scar on Kaido. There's a significant gap, in my opinion, between Zoro and Killer. And even if you think that gap was small, right? The reality is that even if you think that they were close, if you want to argue Killer was close to Zoro on the rooftop, the reality is that Zoro was then shown to be significantly weaker than King, right? And then Zoro needed a huge boost to get way above King, right? So there's levels to where like Killer's not even as strong as Zoro on the roof, who's then not as strong as King, who's then not as strong as Zoro post King, right? And I think we can assume that Sanji post his upgrades, right, is going to be closer to King than he was to pre Conqueror's Haki Zoro. You know what I'm saying? Unless you think it's something like Killer, Zoro. Okay, unless you think it's something like Queen, Sanji, Killer, no Conqueror's Haki Zoro, King, Conqueror's Haki Zoro, which is just basically saying King is way up here and then Queen is like 50 times weaker than King, which I think was just never suggested, right? Reminder, Sanji also became significantly stronger than Queen. I'm tired of explaining it, but like I think we've gotten very little to suggest that like Killer is even close to Sanji at this point. Killer's opponent wasn't even a Toby Roppo. It was Basil Hawkins. It was not that strong. Okay, anyway, also, Outback Panda says, also I'm praying Vivi is there for when we reunite with Dory and Broggy, or I'll cry. I don't know if Vivi's going to be there for that, though, but Vivi's on the move. She's on the move, so it's possible. It's definitely possible. Seeing Dory and Broggy again was cool. I missed Mr. Crescent Super. Let me just make sure I'm not missing some supers. And AJK is spamming a lot. He's saying, hello, check out 1075 last panels. Look at the attack. Looks like the planet Saturn. Saturn Gorosei is behind. AJK, you don't show up for so long. Then you make me look at these things. All right, let's take a quick look. Let's take a quick look. This is the quickest look. Last panels. Let me catch up on supers. Oh, it looks like the planet Saturn? Yeah, I guess so, but maybe it's possible. Maybe it's possible. But then how would the Gorosei Saturn have been behind all of these CP0 being, or CP whatever members being kidnapped for all of these whatevers, you know? Maybe Saturn's, maybe there's multiple characters at play here. Maybe someone's taking out the cameras and maybe that's Saturn somehow, and then maybe other characters have been kidnapping CP Cypherpole members for a bit. Let me just make sure I haven't missed anything. Mr. Crescent says I missed something. I didn't miss anything. What did I miss? Okay, I don't see anything from you, Mr. Crescent. I'm sorry. I literally don't. I'm looking at it right now. I just don't see anything. What did you say? I'll look out for your next comment. How about that? Dr. Farewell says Dorian Broggy coming back was so nostalgic. Yes, agreed. What a pair of characters. Wait, time out. Can we talk about this real quick? Go check out, okay, the video that launched my channel, the video that made me a known YouTuber, period, that took my channel from like 4,000 subscribers to like 15,000, and then from there I got to keep climbing, was the Shanks and Elbaf video. And the entire time I talked about Little Garden and the parallels between what we expect with Luffy meeting Shanks to the Little Garden scenario, right? So Dorian and Broggy were a huge part of my argument for why we're going to be seeing Shanks and Elbaf. People don't remember this, but Shanks and Elbaf was my first big theory that kind of took off. And I was the first person that kind of really made Shanks and Elbaf popular. Because if you look through it after that, then you see lots of more Reddit posts talking about Shanks and Elbaf, stuff like that. Most of them referencing my video or taking on arguments directly from my video. All the arguments in my video, you don't see in existence before that. So I like to think I really put Shanks for being Elbaf being Shanks' arc on the map. There are a few people who said Shanks might be an Elbaf because there's a Viking connection, because Shanks has a Viking ship, and then Elbaf is a Viking-inspired place or whatever. So that was kind of like a really, really, really niche theory. So you'll find one or two like Spanish videos or something like that talking about it. But I didn't talk about Viking stuff at all because I didn't know about that. My video is entirely about Little Garden parallels to Elbaf parallels. And I think that really popularized the Shanks and Elbaf theory. The thing is, it was a theory from so long ago, like 2018, and so much time has happened, people have forgotten that it wasn't commonly accepted that Elbaf was going to be Shanks' arc back then. Back then, the overwhelming consensus was that Elbaf is obviously Big Mom's arc. The overwhelming consensus, this was before Big Mom had revealed that she's going to Wano. Overwhelming consensus was we're leaving Whole Cake, then we're going to go to Wano where we deal with Kaido, then we're going to go to Elbaf where we deal with Big Mom, and then Shanks will have some arc down the line. That was the overwhelming consensus. I was the first person to really popularize the idea that no, Wano is going to be Wano is going to be Kaido and Big Mom. They're both going down there. And then on top of that, Elbaf is going to be saved for Shanks. Again, the thing is, these aren't like huge reveal theories. These are things that people will, like, there's no singular chapter where it's suddenly like, all of that suddenly falls into place. It's stuff that evolves over time. So over time, once people realized, hey, Big Mom is going to Wano. Okay, looks like Big Mom's going to be defeated in Wano. Okay, looks like Shanks is probably coming up around the corner. Okay, Elbaf's probably around. It just slowly started to become more accepted that, yeah, Elbaf probably is going to be Shanks' arc. So there's no singular moment that I got where it was just like, everyone's like, holy shit, you know what, Morj was right. Elbaf is going to be Shanks' arc. It was kind of just like, this was like, slowly just see more people talking about it till it just eventually becomes commonplace. And then nobody's really thinking like, oh, wait, Morj talked about this way earlier. Even though that's the video that made me popular, and it's by far the most popular Elbaf Shanks theory out there ever. It is what it is, but you know, it was a different time. John Ross's idea was he defends Punk Records, Sentient Punk, and they fight off the world government instead of running and cement themselves truly as a truly respected Yonko crew. I definitely think that defending or defeating the Marines here, getting the one up over the world government here, is going to be really huge for Luffy's reputation. But I don't know if they need to keep Egghead Island after that. Although, keeping Punk Records could be really important. it's tricky because Jinbei also implied that punk records is dangerous for humanity and stuff like that. So it's like, which direction does Oda want to go with it? Let's get the stream likes to 300, at least in honor of the Elbaf Shanks video, which will never get its true due credit. But people who were around at the time know. Newer One Piece fans don't know. People who were around at the time know that that theory was very, very new, innovative. People were not talking about it, at least not in that light to that depth. The only things some people had thrown out were, hey, Shanks has a Viking ship, Giants might have a Viking ship. But that was a very, very like niche idea that some people might have had. In general, across the board, everyone was like, Big Mom is obviously going to be an Elbaf, and that's obviously the thing. I had to fight for so long telling people that no, it's probably going to be Shanks and Elbaf, and people told me I was wrong at the time. And then I have to wait years later till people have already kind of all come around to the idea, and they're not going to remember that, oh, we told Morj he was wrong about this. It's the way it is. Go back to the first Reverie I was in. I'll say that. It was like the first or second Reverie I was in. Got into a lot of arguments about that. But anyway, it's nice to see Elbaf actually being Shanks' arc. For me, that's still a very precious video, just because I'll always remember it. It's one of my most viewed videos. I'll always remember it because I know for me, it's the video that, it's the first and only video that truly like blew up and like catapulted my channel to another level. It basically tripled my subscriber count. It made people know about me. It got me invited to the Reverie. It was all that stuff basically. So for me, that's like a big theory. Melby Law says, hi Morj, notice Luffy got his awakening scarf around Gear 4th. Could this be an improved Gear 4th? I have no idea. And I feel like I was arguing for a bit that Luffy will never use Gear 4th again. But I guess he will. I really don't know why. Because to me, it's just like, dog, why doesn't he just use Conqueror's Haki? Why don't you just use your advanced... Why are you using these transformations that will, that will drain your energy and stuff like that? Why not just throw one good Conqueror's Haki punch? You don't need to unlock... I still feel like this chapter, they didn't need to unlock Luffy and Lucci. Because they could, like... They're all... The Seraphims throw an attack. They pull them out of the way. Then they team up with Luffy and Lucci to throw a counterattack. But why didn't Luffy and Zoro just use a stronger attack instead? Why don't you just use Advanced Conqueror's Haki? Right? Just use an Advanced Conqueror's Haki attack, and they're fucked. Like, you're telling me a knockoff Kuma Bear, right, who's in baby form, can take a Advanced Conqueror's Haki hit? No. Keep in mind, Kaido one-shotted Luffy. As soon as, like, Kaido one-shotted Gear 4th Luffy when Kaido used Advanced Conqueror's Haki. Luffy, you can do the same thing now. You're there. You can split the sky with Kaido. Just do the same thing that Kaido did to you to other people. It's a little annoying. I don't actually get it. Behanort says Umineko is a visual novel, which means it's a book with music and voice acting. Oh, so like a pop-up book. So I'll open it up and like figures will come out and then like a recorder will play. Also Pizza shielded it to me, and now it has surpassed One Piece to me. It has a slow start, but then it becomes 10 out of 10. I just don't know if like a pop-up... Okay, what does this... I said it as a joke a second ago. I literally don't know what this means. It's a book with music and voice acting. So it's a movie? What is it? I don't get it. A book with music and voice acting. A book with music and voice acting. Does it have panels? I assume it has panels. So would it be like if I'm looking at a comic strip, but I'm looking at the One Piece comic strip and it says, like, I can see Luffy saying Kong Gun and Lucci saying 6 Kong Gun, like it's animated, or there's music happening while it happens, and there's like dialogue. I don't get it. It's too foreign to me. I don't want to try it. I don't like new things. All right. Keenan, thank you very much. Thanks for coming through. W for Elbaf being Shanks arc theory. And thank you, Keenan. I knew Keenan would appreciate it. I appreciate you. And about to see Kid get dog walked. I love to see a great week to be a One Piece fan. Yeah, I love this week. What a pleasant surprise for a chapter. Sampath Sakesh Revolprathi, thanks for being a member, a Yonko tier member for 3 months. Wow, is the new chapter out? That is my, that was my reaction as well. That is my reaction as well. It's out real early this time. Also, like, I'm seeing people giving me an uncommon Morj W for the Elbaf theory. You know what? I'll take it. My theories back then were so good. I predicted Big Mom to Wano. Again, you guys have to go back in time. We're not going to talk about this is not a day to talk about the raid failing. This is not a day to talk about that. We're talking about something else, right? Young Morj. Young Morj when he... Oh, my God. We got to go back in time. This was a period where Big Mom had said, I don't like the Giants. So everybody was like, oh my god, that means that Big Mom's, the Elbaf arc is going to be the Big Mom arc. And it just makes so much sense. So we'll leave Whole Cake Island and then fight Kaido and Wano and then fight Big Mom and Elbaf. And it makes perfect sense. And I was the first person to be like, no, Big Mom is going to Wano and she goes down with Kaido in Wano there. So I said that, and that was already like a what the fuck sort of theory. But it made sense if you watch the video. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a tremendous amount of sense. It's actually perfectly set up throughout the entirety of post-time skip. Everything is leading up to a showdown with Kaido and Big Mom, right? So I explained that. And then I said, on top of that, here's the real twisty theory. Elbaf, which you all think is for Big Mom, that's actually for Shanks. And everything makes sense if you go back and look at Little Garden. So that was the two-piece, right? Those two theories. And then Big Mom and Wano came true. That was probably the peak of people saying I was a good theorist. Big Mom and Wano coming true. Everybody was sucking me off back then. The raid failing really did a number on that reputation, but it is what it is. I still think my theories are good. Great, even. But people are welcome to disagree based on the raid failing, which is understandable. Anyway, Elbaf then being Shanks' thing, that's something that got confirmed much, much, much later. You know, we had to wait 4 more years for that one. But anyway, let's move it along. Move it along. You guys it was a simpler time. Bobby Wellington, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 4 months. Do you have any early predictions for Elbaf based on the recent developments we've gotten? Also, any Legend of the Galactic Hero updates? I've not had time to watch Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Not because I don't want to, but the tricky thing is I've forgotten some details, so I'd have to go back and watch earlier episodes. So I need to do that, and I need to set aside some time to do that. I still really want to finish watching it. Any early predictions for Elbaf based on the recent developments we've gotten? I would love to see a Davy backfight or 3-way Davy backfight between Luffy, Shanks, and the Kid Pirates. So I'm hoping that the Shanks versus Kid fight doesn't happen right off the bat. I'm hoping that we can kind of wait for Luffy to get there. Because otherwise, what happens? We have Luffy and the Straws get to Elbaf. They find out that Kid has already been defeated and thrown in an Elbaf prison or something somewhere in there. Where have we seen that storyline before? Oh yeah, in Wano. Right? Is it just going to be commonplace now for Luffy to get to New Island, find out that Kid has already been defeated on said island and has been put in a prison? That'd be kind of funny. But that's my main prediction, my main hope. Ray Uchihas, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 4 months. Is the chapter review coming out tomorrow or Friday? That's a tough one. I think I'm going to put it out tomorrow, just for... I like doing chapter reviews right after streams because over the course of it's fun for me that way because over the course of the stream we get to talk about the chapter a lot, right? So everything becomes very fresh in my brain. I probably get some extra thoughts on it. Probably structure my thoughts a bit more. Basically, what did I like? What didn't I like? What am I excited for? What's everything I'm thinking? Did stream have any good ideas and stuff that I want to throw out or mention? Yeah, so I like doing the chapter reviews right after stream. So I'm probably gonna at least record it right after this. Gonna record it right after this. Whether or not put it out tomorrow or Friday, I'll decide. I'm thinking tomorrow though. Shinkai9 says, hey, I remember that Shanks going to Elbaf theory from you for years ago. Congratulations. Thank you, Shinkai. I appreciate it. I'm also well aware that I'm making sure everybody remembers because I'm talking about it a lot. But again, at the end of the day, that theory was an important one for me. I wouldn't probably be... I'm sure something else eventually would have caught on, like an analysis video or theory video or something like that. But you have to understand, when you're doing YouTube, so much of YouTube, this is just the YouTube side of things, right? So much of YouTube is putting out videos and getting incremental sort of growth, incremental improvement. And the road can seem like just such a slow incline for so long that at certain points you're going to be like, do I feel like putting out another video? Like, is there any purpose to it, right? Okay, I put all of this effort into this one video. It didn't really take off. Like the Whole Cake Island video I did, right? That was the video. It was 40-something minutes. I put it out, and it got better views than my past videos. So it got like 4,000, whereas I normally got like 3,000 or something. But it wasn't like a huge boost, right? And so you kind of, you're just doing things with a lot of effort that are getting you incremental increases, and you don't realize it, but what you're waiting for is basically one video to really catch the algorithm and launch you, right? I didn't even realize how possible that was till the Elbaf video. So when I did the LBAP video, that was a video that just, it really launched the channel, right? So I had a lot of good videos and a lot of really good, in my opinion, analysis videos already on the channel at that point, but it was reaching such a small audience. Then the LBAP video came out, and that was the video that launched you. So you just have to, like, for me, that's always just going to be a special video, right? Not because of the theory itself, although I'm very happy that the theory was correct, and I think it's one of the best theories I've ever made, but because it just it changed my level of belief and like motivation to keep doing YouTube videos, basically. It wasn't like I was going to stop or anything like that. It's just that it's one of those things where you know you're putting out video after video that you're putting a lot of effort into. None of them are really taking off, and in your mind you're like, you're paying your dues. I believe that eventually one of these videos will really take off, but there's no guarantee that one ever will, so you're just telling yourself that one will. And then one finally does, and then that makes you really happy and makes you realize that you can keep going. Nerve AMV Maker says, Oda still wants the Straughts to be underdogs. I mean, that's the thing. I think that it's cool that we're still in scenarios. Okay, you're talking about why Luffy's not using Advanced Conqueror's Haki. I will give, and I will say something here, which is that Luffy has mentioned earlier, right, that using Haki does drain your stamina, right? He mentioned that during the Katakuri fight, while Luffy was taking a break in the mirror world from fighting Katakuri. So he mentioned that using Haki uses your stamina, it drains your stamina. So there is that built-in explanation. At the same time, it's like Gear 4th, like, one hit from Advanced Conqueror's Haki, is that really going to drain your stamina that much? I don't know. Red Ryujin says, do you think Gear 4th will still have the drawbacks now that Luffy has gotten so much stronger with his fruit? I mean, the thing is that Oda was playing, it's only one Gear 4th attack that Luffy did, and what do you call? It's only one Gear 4th attack that Luffy did, and with that Gear 4th attack, it's like, how do I say this? He did something, he's done similar things, right? So both at the start of, right before they enter Onigashima, Kid and Law do that team attack, and then later on he does a team attack with X Drake. And so in those one-off attacks, right, where he just quickly goes Gear 4th, throws out a move, we haven't really seen a drawback after that. So I think in this case, Luffy might not have a Gear 4th drawback unless Oda's being slightly inconsistent about something. But I think long-term, it's unknown. We can't determine from this whether or not Luffy has no drawbacks anymore. Cedray says, I think the Beast Pirates are underestimated. They just fought the strongest pirate alliance in the series. They could have won at Marineford. The Beast Pirates could have won at Marineford? I don't think they're underestimated at all. People saying, Morj saying he fell off. No, I think that my theories are still very good. I think that there was a time where people were like, what do you call? There was a time where people were like, holy shit, all of his theories are definitely true. And then after the raid fail, that kind of changed. So that's just the way it is. But I'm like, yeah, I think the Lucia Kingdom theory that I put out is a really, really good theory. And I do think it's correct. I do think that Vegapunk probably did save the Lucia Kingdom. And I think if you go watch that theory, I think probably everything for that makes sense, in my opinion. So I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is what people, this is how people think. It's just the way it is. Dude, the Beast Pirates, King and Queen couldn't even take out Marco. Like, obviously, eventually they would have taken out Marco and he was getting tired. But he was literally holding off King and Queen by himself for a while, right? That's unheard of. They are not stronger than the Whitebeard Pirates, right? If the two of you together cannot quickly and immediately take out Marco, right, then neither of them are strong as Marco, right? As far as we've seen, the Whitebeard Pirates are the biggest deal, right? The Whitebeard Pirates are significantly stronger probably than, I wouldn't say significantly stronger because we understand there's a balance of power, but there's no debate, I think, that, like, we literally got to see a glimpse of Marco, the most notable Whitebeard pirate, fighting the strongest Beast Pirates, right? Then who do you have after that? You have Jack. Let me remind you what Vista was doing, right? Vista got respect from Mihawk. How many seconds flat do you think it would take for Mihawk to steamroll Jack, right? Obviously, you could say that Mihawk wasn't going all out or trying, but that's not the point. The point is that Mihawk and Vista did spar for a little bit. Mihawk knew his name and showed some respect for him. And Vista said, we both have a point in our favor. Was Mihawk going all out? Obviously not. But I'm just saying that this is just not a thing that you would ever expect from Jack, right? Vista also, like, got in some hits on Akainu, right? The Whitebeard Pirates in general did so much better. Like, You're working with King and Queen, who are, King and Queen. They're fine, right? But we already got to see them against Marco, and it like with a great deal of effort, they were slowly wearing him down. But he was handling them both pretty well while his stamina was at its peak. He was clearly handling them well. And then after that, you got Jack. And comparing Jack to like Jozu, Vista, God knows how strong Ace was. God knows how strong Tatch was, If you want to argue Kaido versus Whitebeard, like Kaido now versus Whitebeard moving forward, that's a separate discussion. But the Beast parts as a whole, I don't know about that. Jordan Taylor, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 5 months. The raid failing was your Marine forward. Wano ending was your Ace death. What? Thanks. Manny Coral says thoughts on Luffy's statement to Lucci. I like it. I think it's I like Luffy's statements like that. It's just it's so cocky and confident. It's funny. I like it a lot. And I like the attitude that came with it because it wasn't with a smile or anything like that. It was very matter of fact. I like it. Damon Nickerson says, Young Morj's theories are why I was so down with the raid failing. I was like, this man doesn't miss. Still with you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Next person, Oscar Mondragon says, lol, raid fail dude says he has great theories, lol. Ah, god damn it. It's just the pendulum. John Ross says, theory about Young Giant joining crew in Elbaf. I don't think that guy is joining. Like that kid? I don't think so. But are you saying some other giant? I don't know. I don't know about some other giant. Kakashi Snitch 9 says, your Seraphim Dofi vid is my favorite vid on your channel, Morj. It was very spooky. That was a fun video to make. That one's like, that one's just like me having fun with the murder mystery aspect of it, which is like, that's its own thing, which is like, yeah, who are the suspects? What suspects would be good? What suspects would make sense? I don't know. I had fun with just letting go and like letting my speculations and stuff really take hold there. Because that's not one where I'm like, oh, it's definitely the Doflamingo Seraphim or it's definitely the Blackbeard Pirates and stuff. That was like, look, we got something fun on our hands. Here's some things that make sense. I think the Seraphim thing would be really, really cool. That's like one of my favorite options. But I think that the Punk Records possibility is also really good. Umair Ula says, Morj, would you say that One Piece has the best legendary or living legend characters? Characters like Roger, Whitebeard, Garp, Rayleigh, Rocks, etc. In my personal opinion, it depends on what you compare it to, right? Let's keep it in the sphere of manga and anime, right? In my personal opinion, yes, I would definitely say so. Just because One Piece, I think, above a lot of series, really, really goes out of its way to hype these characters. Like, it's not just talking about them. It's not just, building up what they can do. Oda has a knack, a real penchant for character reactions, to just having characters and everybody have really big responses and reactions to just hearing names, right? So a name carries a lot of weight in One Piece, right? So you can think back to Enies Lobby, post Enies Lobby, and they're mentioning names like Shanks or Dragon and stuff, and you can see the reactions. The reactions to hearing these names is huge. It's the way characters talk about legends in One Piece. It's cool because characters will talk a lot about just existing characters in One Piece in a really high light. Like, people will talk up Marco, just Marco, quite a bit, right? People will mention Marco by name quite a bit and talk about, wow, even Marco or Marco the Phoenix, we're going to get him on our side. Like, this is huge. This is a game-changing thing. They'll talk about Aokiji as this huge war asset that going over Blackbeard's side is a big deal, right? So they'll mention things like that quite a bit and really play up the significance of just hearing names and hearing the significance of legends, right? It also helps that One Piece has really gone out of its way to show us the scale of, like, how small pre-time skip strats are compared to, like, a lot of the Shichibukai, and then compared to, like, the admirals and stuff like that, and then even the admirals compared to Yonko. So the scale of the world feels very, very jaw-dropping, I would suppose you could say. And so then when you're talking about legendary characters, like, yeah, you think Whitebeard's the strongest right now? Imagine him back in his prime. And he was the only one who could even tie with Roger. Holy shit. And Roger's greatest enemy was this guy named Rocks, who was running a crew filled with Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, Shiki, and all these other legends we've been hearing about. Like, just the way that characters talk about characters is very mythical, right? And Oda really plays up the reactions. Like, you'll have a whole room flip its shit, like, literally flip out just hearing the name Dragon, right? So I think even outside the scope of manga and anime, you get like other fantasy writers, they will build up a name quite a bit, right? But it's not like, how do I say that? Okay, everyone's seen Game of Thrones and stuff. Like, they'll talk up Aegon Targaryen and stuff, and it'll be like his name will be talked up a lot. But it's not like everyone's like flipping their shit and like coming in their pants every time Aegon Targaryen's name comes up. Whereas in One Piece, it's very much like that, and especially so for the big legends. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that Oda does a really good job of like hammering in the idea that, hey, these characters are a big deal, right? These characters are a huge deal. Like we're talking about fucking, when we're talking about Gold Roger and stuff, we're talking about basically Jesus Christ walking the earth, right? This guy was a huge deal. He conquered the whole seas. This guy was the shit, right? Like, one thing Monteor says that's pretty cool is like, it's during Whole Cake Island, right? They've got the entire place locked down, waiting for Luffy to exit the mirror, right? They're waiting for Luffy to exit the mirror. They have this entire battalion surrounding the mirror and stuff. And the way that Monteor, at this point in time, Gold Roger wasn't mentioned super much in the series. Whenever his name was dropped, it was a huge deal, right? It's become mentioned more and more frequently in recent times, right? But Monteor was saying, like, they were like, what if Luffy gets out? And Monteor was just like, listen, the Pirate King Gold Roger himself could step out of that mirror, and even he's not getting away. Stuff like that is just, it's cool ways to reference the mythical status that some of these characters hold. Because he's basically saying, like, look, I don't give a fuck who walks out this mirror, right? It could be fucking Jesus Christ himself. He's not getting away. We're catching this dude, right? The fucking Pirate King Gold Roger himself. The legendariest of pirates could walk out this door. A living legend. And he's not getting out of here, right? We're catching this guy. So, I don't know. I think Oda does a really good job with it. He references characters at the right points. He has the right reactions for characters. He has a good scale of how much weight a name should carry in the One Piece world. Just stuff like that. Keenan, thanks. Who is the friends that Shanks thought was dead? It can't be Dory and Broggy because they were on Little Garden for 100 years. And if he met them on Little Garden, why would he think they're dead? It's possible he thought that one of them would have killed each other by that point, but it's also possible that he's just talking about Saul, Because we thought that he was dead. We thought he was dead. Kakashi's... Oh, wait. No, we covered this. Sampat Sakesh Revolpathy says, just caught up to the chapter, and wow, it's a nostalgia fest. It is, isn't it? Strats and CP0 team up, Dory and Broggy, Shanks. It's funny it wasn't Shanks who disarmed Kid. Yeah, I think it's way cooler that Shanks didn't disarm Kid. Is it implied that... Who disarmed him? Who disarmed him? Who disarmed him? Who was the... Yeah, I guess who really disarmed him? Because it feels like it's like, okay, so they said that they're gonna be mad at Ben Beckman too, right? Was it implied Ben Beckman too, or is it just somebody else? The enemies. Okay, so Lucky Roo's saying you can't talk back. Do you really think he's the only one they're mad at? Is he saying that just yeah, he's saying you can't talk. So did Ben Beckman do something? But Ben Beckman doesn't use a sword. But maybe he didn't use a sword specifically to fight. Like, characters can pull out a sword just to inflict damage. Like, let's say Kid's beaten, and then Ben Beckman just walks over, pulls out a sword, and cuts his arm off or something. For example, Kaido doesn't normally use a sword, but he pulled out a sword just to chop off Orochi's head when he was just pissed at him. So it's possible Ben Beckman just gave Kid the beatdown, and then walked over, took out a sword, and just cut off Kid's arm. Strat Chakra says, Morj reliving the glory days of Elbaf video when he still had a hairline and good shoulder. All jokes aside, congrats, happy to be here for the ride. Shonen Empire says, I'm begging Oda to give Kid at least a good showing. Shanks has his entire crew, his fleet, and all of Elbaf on his side. It seems impossible. Here's the tricky thing with the Kid situation right now, right? The tricky thing with the Kid situation is that I don't know how aware Oda is at this moment that he didn't save Kid's reputation that much in Wano. And if anything, like, maybe Oda's under the impression that he really made Kid look really good during the Big Mom fight. It's possible because he even has Law say something like, "Why do you keep coming up with like, why do you even keep doing like an attack after I do my attack to one up me or something?" It's something along those lines, right? Like, is Oda under the impression that Kid's the one that people are thinking is carrying the weight there or something like that? Because if that's the case, then maybe Oda's like, yeah, it wouldn't be that bad for Kid to lose to Shanks because Law's about to lose to Blackbeard. But it's very, very different because, one, most everyone views Shanks in a higher light than Blackbeard by a decent margin at this moment in time, right? Endgame Blackbeard will probably be stronger, but right now most people kind of view Shanks as like top 1, 2, or 3, something like that, right? So it's much more impressive there. And then 2, it's kind of just like Kid hasn't had a true redemption, I think, in most people's eyes at all, period, right? So this scenario, the way that Kid's rolling up here, it's like Kid seems very cackling and overconfident, and Shanks just seems very calm and unperturbed. So it almost seems like, yeah, Kid is not going to look good again. And then the last thing is just like, with Kid, he's not a popular character even just in terms of his personality. So I think it's really not fun to... It's not going to do him any favors in terms of popularity to have an extremely unpopular character like arrogantly try and take on one of the most popular characters in the story. Maybe the single most popular side character in the story today. Shanks is probably competing only in terms of side characters. Shanks' competition is probably only Sabo and maybe Mihawk or something like that in terms of popular side characters, right? Ace still has a lot of post-mortem fans, but we don't talk about that, right? So it's kind of like you're taking a character that has already been humiliated 15 different ways in the New World, kind of got a redemption in Wano, but the redemption felt very hollow in most fans' eyes, so they view him as still needing redemption. Now you're throwing him against a character that we're not going to give him any respect for if he loses to Shanks. Like, it's not the same as... it's not the same, right? At this point, we want him to do something, right? It's not the same as kind of just, like, accepting that, okay, he couldn't beat Kaido the first time around and stuff like that, right? So we need to see something more from him, and it doesn't help that he's probably going to lose or not look that good. And he's coming off as very arrogant and aggressive, and Shanks is coming off as very chill and nice about the whole thing. And Kid's just already not a popular character, and you're throwing him against a very, very popular character, right? Yeah, it seems impossible. Shanks has everything. A better crew, Elbaf Giants, he himself is stronger than Kid. It's just everything. Grizzly Adams says, most of the higher Whitebeard officers were able to tussle with the Roger pirates. Kaido is the only beast pirate to encounter Roger. That's the difference. Most of the higher Whitebeard... Yeah, I guess so. You're saying just from a different era? Yeah, I guess that's one way you could put it. Cal D. Sullivan, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 2 months. W for Shanks Theory, thank you. Thoughts on different parties going to Elbaf for a Ragnarok-type war? Maybe cross-guild for Mihawk to get his moment before Zoro. I really don't know if, like, everybody's going to flood... Because that's the thing. That's the last group that I would love to really see here, would be cross-guild. I would love to see cross-guild show up in Elbaf. Blackbeard would be a pleasant surprise, but it sounds like Blackbeard's about to be occupied with Garp. So cross-guild. Does cross-guild fit? I don't know. It's like, what's their incentive? I would like to see cross-guild do maybe road poneglyphs or something like that. But I would love to see cross-guild do some marine hunting real quick first, and then maybe get into the road poneglyph game, I wouldn't be upset to see cross-guild here. Let's get them all in. But, and I think, in that Elbaf Shanks video, my opinion was that this would be a great opportunity for Zoro to fight Mihawk as well. If Luffy's facing Shanks, Usopp's facing Yasop, everyone's kind of facing their initial mentor figure type demons, Zoro facing Mihawk would be perfect, right? And there's incentive there in that other big name pirates are gathering at Elbaf. Luffy will likely be there soon as well. And there's road poneglyphs at play. So we could see cross-guild showing up there. It's possible. Ali H. Vegapunk dialogue on page 8 kind of debunks your Leloucia video. I don't think so. Let me see what exactly you're talking about. Vegapunk dialogue on page 8. So he says he had no idea to think that this was happening why does the Cypher Pole stuff happening matter? And then he says, how troubling this whole affair has been baffling from the start. Word leaking to the world government about our research into the poneglyphs should have been impossible. Okay, so you're assuming that Vegapunk is assuming that it's got to be related to the poneglyphs and not the Lucia Kingdom. Here's the thing. Oda's already had Lucci outright state that this is related to the Lucia Kingdom incident. So it can be two things. Vegapunk could be assuming right now, oh, it's the poneglyph thing, but it could also have been leaked to the world government that it's Lucia Kingdom related. We already know for a fact, it's already been established factually, like, in the story that Oda is trying to, like, Oda's drawing a connection between CP0 being sent after Vegapunk and the likely conclusion being that it is about the Lucia Kingdom. That's explicitly said from Lucci's mouth, that, looking at the pieces, this is related to the Lucia Kingdom incident. So the question is how. So I don't think him mentioning the poneglyphs there has anything to do with that, really. Like, that's a separate thing, most likely. But whether that's the reason why other agents have been investigating the island beforehand regarding poneglyphs, that's its own question. I'm surprised that such low-level CP agents were even sent to this island, right? Because it's like, didn't you only send CP0 at this point? Guys, let's get the stream likes to 400. Let's get it to 400 real quick. The FPS King Gaming says, I want Shanks to use Kid and Blackbeard to use Law. That way there could be a 4-way Dragon Ball fight with Cross Guild and Blackbeard. Davy back fight. I read DB and I think Dragon Ball. That'd be interesting. I don't know if they could use them effectively. Captain Faces, congratulations, Morj, on the Shanks and Elbaf theory. It had me convinced. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Hope it's a 4-way Davy back fight. Shanks, Luffy, Kid, Buggy, Zoro versus Mihawk. It'd be funny if it was like so one, I wonder if Ben Beckman's, it's like, okay, few things. Is it too early for Zoro to fight Mihawk? My inclination is yes. Zoro, the thing is that I think with Zoro, Oda kind of jumps Zoro's strength a lot out of the blue, whereas with Luffy, he takes more time to really draw it out. The biggest thing I'll say with Zoro, if we're to hypothetically play with the idea that Zoro would be ready to fight Mihawk right now, right? We are in the final saga, right? So Zoro should be getting close to his endgame level opponents at this point anyway. We're in the final saga. Here's the thing. What people don't talk about is Zoro, like, the moment that Zoro scarred Kaido, right? It was the only time that we've seen Zoro use Ashura. So the one moment that Zoro uses Ashura, it's in a head-on clash with a Yonko. He wins that clash, even though it's not a particularly, it's not like Kaido was going all out, we can assume, but it's a 1-to-1 clash with a Yonko, right? It's the only time Zoro really goes and clashes with Kaido straight up. So Zoro uses Ashura, wins the clash with Kaido. The only time he uses the move, he leaves a permanent scar on Kaido. So, if Oda wanted to, right? And Zoro now has mastery over Advanced Conqueror's Haki, whereas at that time that he did that, he was using it most likely subconsciously or some mixture of that, right? But now he can actually use it on command, as far as we know, right? So, it's up to Oda where it's like, okay, you got a glimpse of what Zoro could do with Ashura. His normal level is far below that, but you got a glimpse of what he could do with Ashura. The one time he used Ashura, he fucked up Kaido a little bit, right? Okay, so what could Zoro do if he could use Ashura just on a whim continuously the way Luffy uses Gear 5th or something? What is that level? I think we don't have a gauge at all. We know Zoro's current level, right, that we would scale him at is probably Yonko 1 level, something like that, or maybe a little bit higher. Some people, it depends on where you kind of put Zoro, right? Yonko 1 or maybe, like, we know he's above King. That's all we really know. We know he's above some Yonko first commanders, right? Whether you think that means he's above Marco, Ben Beckman, stuff like that. If you want to really go there, that's your own debate, right? But that's his standard level, right? We don't know where he gets to where he's using Ashura, especially now that he can use Advanced Conqueror's Haki, because we only saw one glimpse. That glimpse of it was one of the most built-up feats in the entire series, which was cutting Kaido, beating a Yonko in a clash, scarring them. That's a big deal. You can't downplay it just because it's like a small interaction, because that's the point. In the small interaction we saw of Ashura, it was really fucking strong, right? So the question is, if he could use that continuously, what's his level there, right? So that's the only way I think Oda could really not cheat, but he could really spin Zoro fighting Mihawk right now in a way that makes sense. If Zoro comes out and he's like, right off the bat, he's using Ashura, and it's like an even better version of Ashura now that Zoro has mastery or something, and we're like, holy shit, this is what scarred Kaido. Okay, let's see that in an extended battle with Mihawk or something, right? Polmao, thank you very much. All the major players from Wano are facing Yonkos now except Straw Hats. Luffy already did his work, by the way. He fought Kaido, right? He doesn't need to be fighting Yonkos 1v1. He showed what he could do before. Law versus Blackbeard, Kid versus Shanks. Do you feel Straw Hats will encounter Cross-Guild after Egghead, or is that for the final war with Love Zoro versus Mihawk? So, I mean, we're circling around this idea quite a bit. Cross-Guild being on Egghead, it could make sense. It would give an opportunity for Luffy to be fighting Shanks while maybe Zoro's fighting Mihawk, Usopp Yasop, stuff like that. Kid could get in the mix. I think if Kid loses in like some sort of a three-way battle, it makes Kid look less bad than if he just loses, he gets like dog walked by Shanks right away. You know what I mean? So if it's a three-way battle, you could probably spin Kid a little bit better. I think it would also be a great opportunity for Kid to develop Advanced Conquerors Haki if he's set to ever develop that. I'd like to believe that he is. What is this doing this? Hold on. 1 second, guys. Okay. Kakashi Snitch 9, thank you very much. Been loving the Seraphim videos. Also, do you think that Imu and the Seraphim will be big villain group of One Piece, like the Akatsuki or Phantom Troop? And will S Crocodile be a girl? Will S Crocodile be a girl? I think S Crocodile being a girl is a good possibility. I've always subscribed to Crocodile being a girl. Makes sense. I do think that the Seraphim are going to be significant for some period of time. I think that they'd be kind of random to just be one-off villains for this arc, because they're being so much is being built up as them being the pinnacle of creation, right? They're supposed to become the strongest beings. That's been reiterated twice now that they're supposed to develop into the strongest beings, and it's just been made clear so many times that they're in early stages of maturation, right? Do I think they'll be like the Akatsuki or Phantom Troop? I just don't think so, because those are very well fleshed out groups of characters, right? Both the Akatsuki and the Phantom Troop. In different ways, I suppose. Phantom Troop is still getting their characterization. But yeah, the Seraphim, I feel like they're more so a villain group that's being included in a way that Oda can get around having to spend a lot of story time developing their characters, you know? Steven Bracano, thank you very much. Morj, your old theories were so cool. I remember thinking the Jack versus Luffy was spot on. Ever think you'll share what ideas you had post raid fail? I think I share those, like, so if you guys listen to my podcast and stuff like that, I should push those more. The podcast that I do for Yonko tier members and up, you can join by becoming a member, but they release every Friday. I've talked a good deal about, like, general speculations I had, especially during the Wano, like, while the raid fail stuff, like, while we were in the thick of it. I talk a lot about that in podcasts about, like, yeah, I think that this has good potential, that has good potential. That's where generally my most speculative, like, just spitballing ideas, basically, that I wouldn't put into fully structured videos with hard evidence, but stuff that feels like it could make sense. Check out the podcast. Rickon says, what if the traitor is Punk Records AI supercomputer? I think that that's looking like a very solid possibility as of this chapter. Flame Emperor, I get the feeling Kid might have insulted Shanks' lack of an arm, and as a result, Shanks' crew took his arm off as a result. That's hilarious. That is, for a moment I thought you were saying it as a joke, but then I was like, wait, that's a very real interaction that could have happened, like, just to teach him a lesson. I'm like, it's not as though Shanks feels any sort of way about the arm situation, but, you know, just to put a little rookie in line, basically, like, oh, you think it's funny Shanks doesn't have an arm? Samuel Victor says, I don't think Luffy is portrayed as a Yonko. Big Mom destroyed Queen without Haki, and Luffy used all of his strength and did not KO Lucci. Now he's using Gear 4th for a fucking Seraphim. But the thing is, Luffy should be able to... Okay, Big Mom being able to destroy Queen without Haki and stuff, we don't know. She could have been using invisible armament Haki or whatever, but that's not the point, right? Big Mom's raw physical strength has always been much higher than Luffy's, right? She was tossing around giants as a kid, right? But we know at the top level, Haki is an equalizer, right? So just because Luffy went from basically, you know, what would we say standard Luffy punch is capable of doing, right? With no Haki, right? Standard Luffy punch with no Haki can probably break a very, very big boulder or something like that, right? Or a building, right? Once you throw Advanced Conquerors Haki, it makes it exponentially stronger, right? Luffy can split the sky with Kaido. That's the level of strength that we know that he's at. We know that he's capable of that, right? So it's like, yeah, even if Luffy's not using Advanced Conqueror's Haki, if Luffy's not using Haki, he's not going to be anywhere near as physically strong as Big Mom. Once Haki's in the picture for both of these characters, it's just a whole different ball game. So it's as though they're, what they can do without Haki doesn't matter as much, in my opinion. But that's not the point. The point is more so, we know Luffy can use Advanced Conqueror's Haki, right? Luffy used all his strength and did not KO Lucci. Luffy didn't use Advanced Conqueror's Haki as far as we can tell, because Advanced Conqueror's Haki is marked by there being a fairly large buffer of contact, right? So, yeah. Using Gear 4th for fucking Seraphim, at the end of the day, it's just for the cool duo moment, right? You want to do Kong Gun next to Six King Gun. It's just a cool combo, right? It's just for the cool moment. But at the end of the day, it's like, wouldn't it just be so much easier if Luffy just used a tiny bit of Advanced Conqueror's Haki and just took out the Seraphim right away? Young Smokey, thank you very, very, very much. I appreciate it. Bassem Elmedawi says, so I've come to realize that Blackbeard or Shanks will have 3 poneglyphs potentially going forward. Will they? So Shanks versus Blackbeard is set up because Law has the Zoe poneglyph and Kid has the Whole Cake Island one. Oh, that's interesting. Wait. But wouldn't they still be... I don't get it. Why would they just have 3 road poneglyphs? Can't they only pick up 2? No, I guess because Luffy shared all of them, right? So they're both about to acquire... Okay, that's cool. That makes sense. Sampat Sakesh Revolporti says, it feels weird that Shanks is actively pursuing One Piece when he trusts in Luffy, like a main character and the sensei participating in the same tournament. Yeah, and it's interesting that Shanks just didn't care to go after it for a long time, right? That's a big deal of it, too. It's like, why is he only talking about it now? Oh, he didn't care. Polmao, thank you very much for gifting 5 more memberships. Everybody say thank you to Polmao. Everyone say thank you to Polmao. The gifter of memberships. Much appreciated. I use that word a lot, but it's just, what else can I really say? Thanks, man. Take Inventory says, what if Blackbeard captured Kobe for the Marine bounty? Yeah, I wonder how much of a bounty's on Kobe. I guess because he's a big name, right? Does Blackbeard need cash like that? Some Patsukesh Revolpati says, will the Giant Kid also accidentally gulp a Devil Fruit? I think it'd be funny, but I just don't... I'm kind of hoping the Giant Kid doesn't play a huge role in this arc. We already know several Giants in Elbaf that we are interested in. Dory, Brogy, Saul in particular, right? And then we've got Loki, right? It sounded as though Loki could be a potentially important character in Elbaf because he's being set up in advance, right? A lot of people also talked about interesting things. I think people have even come into stream and talked about this, but Elbaf is set to be an important character for Usopp, right? The Elbaf Giants are built around these ideas of pride and, warrior's honor and things like that. And Loki traditionally is more of a trickster, not the traditional, like, Thor-type warrior, right? So, in a sense, you could say Loki represents something a bit counter to the culture of Norse Viking mythology and things like that, right? Usopp, if that arc is important for him, that seems like that plays exactly into that as well. Like, Usopp's not a Luffy. He's not a Zoro in that sense, right? He's a bit of a coward, right? And he will be brave and fight, but he relies a lot of tricks and lying and trickery and obviously all of that. So I do think Loki is going to be an important character because it's going to be an important arc for Usopp, and Loki's been set up beforehand. So that's the one giant I'm interested, the one new giant I'm interested in learning more about in Elbaf. But beyond that, I'm hoping we don't get, like the current situation where we're having to learn Vegapunk 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, and yay, they're all going to fucking sail on the ship with us. Yay. Nerve AMV Maker says, thoughts on Luffy apologizing to Bonnie? It's just the way Luffy's brain works. I'm not putting too much thought into it. He's just like, I like Bonnie. Bonnie cares about the bear guy. Okay, I'll apologize on her behalf for the bear guy. Because Luffy knows that the bear guy is not actually the bear guy, but he's a nice enough person that he's going to apologize mentally at the same time as he's doing it, Drusser says the Giant Kid is almost certainly Loki. Is it? No, wasn't Loki born a while back? Loki was born a while back, right? Loki was born way back, right? During the Big Mom flashback. Am I crazy? I think it was during the Big Mom flashback, right? And I know giants age at a different rate, but there's no way he's still a kid. Because we saw other kids from Big Mom's age, and they're grown up now. Bassam El Madawi says Law has Zoe and Wano, Kid has Whole Cake Island and Wano. Either Blackbeard or Shanks have their own potentially. I don't know if Blackbeard has a road pony live. I don't know if that's what he's been on the hunt for so far. So Luffy won't even be necessary for them to fight. Shanks might have one because he's on Elbaf, right? Shanks might have one because he's on Elbaf. And it's speculated that the final road poneglyph is on Elbaf, right? Lamework says 25 and going back to college. Any words of wisdom? I think you've already made a very wise choice doing that, because I know too many people that pick a subject, right? They go to college for it, and it's the wrong subject for them. It's the wrong subject, it's the wrong career, and then they're just on they graduate with that, and then they're set on a career trajectory that will not bring them happiness, will leave them feeling unfulfilled at some point, and then they're just stuck, right? 25 is very young. 25 is very young. I'm 27 now. I would love to be 25 again. 25, going back to school, doing college again. I think that that's great. I think that that's great. You're still very young, and I think that, it's just smarter to go back, and it sounds like if you're going back now, you have confidence in going back to it, right? So it's smarter to go back now when you're actually certain that you want to have a degree and everything like that, and you're certain of the degree that you want, than either I've just dropped college, right? Because, dropping college is fine, but I'm saying, like, it sounds like you were uncertain for a while and you waited a while before making your decision, right? So I think it's always smarter to wait a while, because lots of times people can make life decisions too early because they feel like they have to be on a certain timeline or set track of how often they have to do things, right? So I need to do this by this age, be out of college by here, be this far in my career by here, be married, have a family by here, and stuff like that. And that's not the right way to look at it. Young Smoky VP17. Thank you, appreciate it. Isaac Safe says, Morj, who's the top 3 prettiest Bollywood actresses ever? This is the tricky thing for me because, okay, I'm going to say, because I don't remember the names that well, right? And I only watched Bollywood movies when I was younger and my parents had them on. So I can't really remember name by name everybody, but I remember Priyanka Chopra. I remember that name, like, I remember her. And I think that she was probably the prettiest in my mind, at least from when I was watching Bollywood, by far. Abyssal Leviathan says, does Kid have better portrayal than Green Bull now? No, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't put Kid or Law above Admirals. AJK says, lol, you're talking like an old Grams. Shut up, Morj. No, I'm just saying, like, look, I'm going to be honest. I don't know what age some of you are, but at least when you're in your late 20s, which I am now, and I have to say late 20s. When I went from 26 to 27, I could no longer say I'm in my mid-20s, right? When you're in your late 20s, so 27, etc., I know it's not that old, but it suddenly feels like every year matters in my mind. Like, this is the last section of my life I'm at, where I'm in my 20s, right? And 20s is the last period of your life that you're considered young by most people's standards, right? I now look at 30 and I'm like, 30's not that old, right? 30s aren't that old. And, I think as times change, society changes, and generally people will age longer and longer. People will start counting 30s as young as well. But the reality is that 20s is the period of that you're considered a young adult, right? And I've got 3 more years of that, 27, 28, 29. Then I'm out of my 20s. So for me, when I'm saying, oh, I would love to be 25 again, it's not like, oh, that was so far back, but it's more so just you really value those last years of your 20s, basically. If I could get 2 of those back, I would be very, very happy. When you're like 22 going on 23, you don't give a shit. When you're 21 going on 22, you don't give a shit. Even when you're 23 going on 24, you're still young. You don't give a shit. At this age, I'm still young. I'm still in my 20s and everything like that, but I would love to rewind time for for 1 year, 2 years, get 2 of those back would be great. It's all relative, you know what I mean? Keenan says, other than Shanks, who I'm 1,000% sure is a D, are there any other characters who could be hidden Ds like Law was until Dressrosa? I'm sure there are. Let me think off the top. Some people speculated that Nami is. I don't know how I feel about that. There's obviously been speculations for a lot of different things. I don't think Nami is a D. I think it's possible that what do you call? Yeah, I don't think Nami is. I don't think there's no one that I can think of right off the top that I'm like, okay, this person is probably a D. Shanks is a possibility, but I would because we don't really know his lineage, and a lot of people believe that he's the son of rocks. I believe that too. I would love if he isn't, just because I like characters that are strong that are not from the D tribe, and not just reliant on devil fruits. Like Mihawk being one of the strongest characters in the world, but not having a devil fruit and not being from the D tribe. I think that that's really cool. Stephen Bracano says Blackbeard might have a road poneglyph because he was with Whitebeard when Whitebeard moved it from Fishman Island. Would he have picked one up right then? I don't know. Like, would he have been able to? Would he have had the means? Does Whitebeard just let anyone get their hands on it? I assume it's like a treasured item. Justin Holland says Luffy just uses reverse psychology as an emperor. Is the base Vegapunk the Straw Hats met an imposter? I don't think that guy's an imposter. I don't think that guy's an imposter. It felt like we learned too much about Vegapunk's character and the important aspects of Vegapunk's character for Oda to just reveal, oh yeah, that was all a lie. Anime Dimension, thank you very, very much. I think Vegapunk mentioning about his poneglyph research has bigger significance before this chapter, because before this chapter we kind of had an idea that Vegapunk knows about the Vegapunk research. Poneglyph him mentioning about makes no sense. Before this chapter we kind of had an idea that the world government knows about Vegapunk's research, researching poneglyph, him mentioning about it makes no sense. So you think that there's something I don't fully understand. World government knows about Vegapunk's research, poneglyph, him mentioning about it makes no sense. This sentence doesn't fully make sense to me, I'm going to be honest. The world government knew about Vegapunk researching the poneglyphs before this. I thought that was that clearly established? I'm not fully remembering. There must be some aspect of the research that has triggered something with them. Guys, let's get the stream likes to 600. That's the new benchmark. Umair Ullah says, Morj, can you say something in Hindi or Punjabi? मेरा हिंदी इतना अच्छा नहीं है मैं थोड़ी चीजें बोल सकता हूँ. And that was probably with a terrible accent. I can't say anything in Punjabi. Aespa Comeback says, had to come for this. Madhuri Dixit, greater. I gotta look up, because I don't remember the names that well, you know? Because I was young when I was watching them, so I don't know the names, but I can recognize when I see. Captain Face says, Cross Guild could be in Full of Lead's conflict. Cross Guild and Full of Lead's conflict. Let's read this. John's treasure is on Full of Lead. Ex-Rock-spired Buggy was looking for on Skull Island. Blackbeard selling Kobe's bounty to Buggy. Alvida and Kobe reunion. Here's the tricky... I see why, story-wise, it could line up. But the thing is that with Cross Guild, I don't know if they're... like, the types of moves that they would want to make, right? We don't know Cross Guild's motivations. It has not been established that Crocodile or Mihawk is interested in the One Piece, right? So road poneglyphs, I don't know if that would interest them. It has been established that they're out for some blood against the Marines, and they want cash. No, not that they want cash. They have cash, which is why they're putting out Marine bounties. The simplest way, the simplest connecting point that I can... so, like, them raiding Blackbeard's Island, I don't know. That seems like a very big risk for no reason. But the simplest connection could be something like someone mentioned earlier, Blackbeard selling Kobe to them for a bounty, right? That could make a lot of sense. In which case, yeah, we might see a transaction or something that could lead to a conflict. Mr. MMF2 says, didn't Shanks already know where Laugh-Tale is? Also thoughts on S-Hawk fruit. I think we got the indication Shanks didn't know because Shanks was shut out of the door literally when the discussion was happening on Roger's Pirates crew of where to go for Laugh-Tale. And thoughts on the S-Hawk fruit. Okay, so this came up last stream, right? This came up last stream about like, oh, well, what if the Mihawk Seraphim has Mr. One's fruit, right? Because the Blade fruit, that would make the most sense. I said at the time, I wouldn't like that because it feels almost like a waste of an ability for him because I just don't see why. How does it add to Mihawk's fighting style that much, right? Like, why does it make that much of a difference that he can, you know, it's cool that he can turn his leg into a blade, but fighting-wise, isn't it essentially the same thing? It, like, aside from the choreography being a little bit different for us, the viewer, how would it make... is it going to make the fight itself that different if it's just going to change the choreography a little bit, you know? Like, it doesn't feel like it's at, like, basically it still feels like Mihawk's ability is being really good at sword fighting, right? And using strong slashes and, like, cutting attacks and stuff. What difference does it really make? You know what I mean? Like, if it was like, okay, Mihawk can suddenly, if he had Law's Fruit, right? So he can suddenly teleport. Suddenly his slashes have a much bigger range, stuff like that. Suddenly his slashes can go inside the body. That feels like a big deal. But this just feels like it's a swordsman still being a swordsman. It's just going to look a little different how he's fighting, right? But it feels like essentially the same fight. He's not picking up a new ability, really. It just doesn't feel like that different of an ability. You know what I'm saying? That's my thought on it. And I also would not be that interested in seeing that storyline again. At this point, Zoro struggling to cut something has been a consistent. It's been part of his two biggest battles so far: Zoro versus Mr. One, Zoro versus King. Both of them featured him struggling to cut something. If it happens again with the Mihawk Seraphim, let's say it's like, okay, you can cut steel, but can you cut steel with Conqueror's Haki coating on it? It's like, I feel like we're going to play out a very similar scenario again. It's just my thought. Just my thought. Pata Thought says, Morj, watch RRR. It's legit one of the most fun movies I ever saw. It seems, I'm happy that an Indian movie is catching cultural fire like this, but it's not for me personally. Tom says, Mera naam Thomas. Okay, so you're saying my name is Thomas. Not Hindi, but Nepali. Oh, so that's why you spell it a little different. Mero naam Thomas ho. So in Hindi it would be Mera naam Thomas hai. I see what you're saying. Okay, I have to share this real quick. When I was... I feel like this is sharing too much almost. This person will never find out, okay? When I was in high school, my friends had this one friend who was, he's from Nepal. Okay, I think he's never gonna see this. He's from Nepal. And, you know, we liked him, but, he was always, okay, he was a bit of a weird and slightly stupid kid, okay? And his explanation for a lot of things was like, oh, it's because I'm from Nepal. In Nepal, it's different. So in Nepal, we do this or we do that or something like that, right? And, you know, that flat, like lots of times immigrants, you know, different, you know, you're used to different customs or norms or something like that, right? But this guy was legit dumb, okay? He was legit dumb and did lots of legit dumb stuff. And so much of it he would try and excuse by being from Nepal. He's like, and it just wouldn't make any fucking sense, okay? Like, he would write the year. He would write the date, right? Imagine it's 2013. You write 2013, right? He'd write it 2103 or something like that. And we're like, dude, what the fuck is this? And he would try and get away with shit, like, by explaining that he's from Nepal, so he doesn't know any better. Legit attempts at explaining this shit away, and we're like, no, it's not, this isn't a Nepal thing. No one in the fucking world does this, I'm 95% sure. That's just one thing as a microcosm. So I'm not trying to cast a certain light on all people from Nepal, but this is just what I remembered, which was like, you know, I had this friend / acquaintance, like, you know, a person that you know, that acquaintancey basically, that is kind of a character that that pops up every once in a while, and we're like, I'm not going to say a name, but I forgot about that, dude. Subput Sakesh Revolt Prathi says, pirates be grabbing lifts when nobody can read them. Yeah, that's true. Kuma Jin says, Morj, would you serve under Crocodile or Doflamingo? I think Crocodile. Because Doflamingo, if you're part of his family, then he really likes you. But I wouldn't be part of his family, right? He's not just going to welcome me into his family right away, right? Crocodile, I think, was generally a good boss. No, he pretty much killed Mr. Here's the thing with Crocodile. If you do your job effectively for Crocodile, then he will treat you with a lot of respect and, you know, like, try and take you with him as he climbs upwards. We've seen that with Mr. One. When you're incompetent, he doesn't care. Like, he will throw you under the bus or whatever. He'll attack you like he did with Mr. 3. If you betray him, like Nico Robin, stuff like that. But if you do your job well, he will give you a lot of respect and even look out for you a little bit, like with Mr. One. So I think I'd serve Crocodile. Jack Mihoff says Kid is part of the D clan. Luffy's arm tattoo says 3-Day 2Y has a hidden meaning. 3D versus 2 Yonko, Law Kid, and Luffy versus Big Mom and Kaido. I feel like that's a bit of a stretch. It's also like that's something that would probably have been cooler to have been revealed before they took down the 2 Yonko. And it also just feels like it doesn't feel like that would mean that all of pre-time skip was just set up for the Wano arc when that's not really the case, right? The Wano arc was important, but not the endgame, right? GDN says one battleship can carry 1,000 soldiers according to Wiki. So there are 100,000 soldiers, 100,000 Marines headed to Egghead, the same amount at Marineford. I don't know if we're going to be that precise with the numbers, right? Because 100,000 Marines headed to Egghead, that's like, is this really a Marineford scale conflict that just happened? It's big, obviously, but is it Marineford? They emptied out every Marine base from around the world, you know? I mean, even as we speak, there's other Marine base like G14, Garb's grabbing some people to go over and fight Blackbeard and stuff like that. A lot of people claiming that that they're the friend. I don't think. I'm just gonna believe that's not the case. Grizzly Adams says, "What if S-Hawk turns himself into a Black Blade? That'd be cool. That'd be cool." No, it's not dyslexia. It was more that it it extended to a lot of things beyond that. All right, let me just say that. Sampath Sakesh Ravolpati says, dude, you Punjabi, I thought you were from Kerala. No. I was born in Delhi. Kid Spinny 94 says, probably won't happen, but imagine a One Piece world where Kid kills Shanks. I'm not reading a world with kids killing Shanks. Come on. Rodolfo says, I couldn't watch your last stream, but I wanted to ask you, what is your opinion on Yu Yu Hakusho? So Yu Yu Hakusho was one of my favorite... Yu Yu Hakusho was one of my favorite series to read while I was reading it. And I was young enough while I was reading it. I think like high school me, a lot of the stuff that I read, I forget if it was high school or late middle school or something, but probably early high school, I forget. High school me could like enjoy series and not fully appreciate them, I guess, at the time, because you're reading and compare. Like in my mind, as I was reading Yu Yu Hakusho, I was thinking like this is worse Dragon Ball. But at the same time, I could tell that I was liking lots of aspects and the style of it better than Dragon Ball, right? And in retrospect today, I'm like, yeah, I like Yu Yu Hakusho better than Dragon Ball. But in my mind, I was already just like, I'd already checked off in my head. I was like, okay, Dragon Ball is the best type of like this type of action key-based martial arts type manga. So Yu Yu Hakusho is probably just it's got to be a worse series than Dragon Ball, right? So I kind of read it with that mentality. I found myself enjoying it a lot. But I can't like fully. I think I enjoyed everything except for the last arc, and I thought the second to last arc was a great arc, and then the last arc, the final tournament that was supposed to happen, it was without a doubt the single most disappointing ending to a manga I've ever seen, without a doubt, and that really skews my feelings towards that series as a whole. You know, I can't enjoy that. I can't like ever convince myself to go back and read or watch Yu Yu Hakusho because I just know the ending, and the ending's so wildly disappointing. I'm just like, he really didn't care. He just threw it away. He really, really didn't care. He wanted to move on. That's it. Flaming Strawberry's asking, have I read the ending of Attack on Titan? No. I'll probably wait and watch that one. Risk0IS says worse than Naruto. Here's the thing. A lot of people don't like Naruto's ending, but like it's not nearly... It's not good, in my opinion. But there's levels to it, right? So I personally felt, and I think I'm going to ignite a war here, but I think a lot of people in the afterglow of Thousand Year Blood War, which has had some phenomenal animation, and the first half of that arc is very, very good. People have forgotten what the second half is like, and a lot of people are like, oh, we gave Bleach too bad of a rep back when it was first coming out and stuff like that, right? no, you really didn't. People have just forgotten. I don't like you're looking at a really good animation right now, and you're looking at the well-written half of the arc, so you think in your head that, oh, I must have misjudged the whole thing. No, people don't get on people weren't criticizing Thousand Year Blood War for the first half. It was everything that happened afterwards. And particularly the ending. Okay? There is no way to spin it. When people heard that Bleach was ending in 10 chapters, it turned into a circus. People were tuning in with popcorn in their hands, basically like, holy shit, what is this motherfucker gonna do in the next 10 chapters? Because there's 10 chapters left of this story. This series is just like, the ending to Bleach is, let's wait and see how people feel at the end of Thousand Year Blood War, because maybe there's some new things added to it or something like that by the anime, who knows. But I just remember, in general, people thought that Bleach's descent was swift. In terms of quality, it was swift, and tragic, comical, and particularly rushed at the very end. Rushed to a point that people were generally in shock that something like this could be ending in that number of chapters, right? And it felt like an extremely abrupt and short ending, and I think it was like dissatisfying. Unsatisfying is not even the word that most people would use to describe it. I remember at the time everyone was just like, yeah, this was maybe one of the worst manga endings ever. It's like hard to even describe it as an ending because it seems like it just got cut off mid-sentence or something like that, okay? I'm just telling you what it was. If you want to come in and write like 10 paragraphs explaining why, no, if you really look at it like thematically it's so brilliant or something like that, it's just like, dude, I'm not even listening, because it's just like, maybe I'll go back and give it the courtesy of looking at it again, but I remember what the universal understanding was, and there was almost no way whatsoever to spin that ending as anything less than basically like the most rushed shit you've ever seen. Now, my opinions are basically kind of like this. You can have a sort of Naruto ending where it's like things don't like you have problems with lots of the writing stuff basically, and you feel like the series is nowhere near as good as it was and feels like not good, but it's still checking off a lot of the stuff that you wanted to see, which was Naruto and Sasuke fighting together against some big bad. You got to see Madara as a villain, stuff like that, even if it wasn't satisfying. And you finally got to see Naruto and Sasuke fight each other, and you got to see Naruto become Hokage, so a lot of things were checked off. Then you have a Bleach ending where it's just like, holy shit, what did this become by the end? This was the most rushed, abruptly written, thrown out the window sort of shit ever. And then you go one step down from that, and then you have Yu Yu Hakusho's ending, where you don't even get an ending, you just hear about some ending off screen. Imagine the ending of an entire manga being off screen. That's Yu Yu Hakusho. You cannot be worse than Yu Yu Hakusho's ending, in my opinion. You cannot. So there's levels to this, right? I would say with One Piece, I expect a better ending than Naruto, but I'd say getting a Naruto-esque ending where it's like you're not there's a lot going on, lots of stuff happens, maybe you don't vibe with a lot of the plot twists and stuff like that. Maybe you don't vibe with a lot of the writing, but still the big things are kind of being checked off, right? Like you got to see Madara, you got to see Naruto and Sasuke resolve their differences and fight someone. You got to see Naruto and Sasuke fight each other. You got to see Naruto become Hokage. You got to see a lot of things. You got to see Team 7 together again, even if you didn't like the way that it was done. A lot of stuff was checked off. I would say that's the bare minimum ending that I would be okay with for One Piece. I'm still expecting better, but I'm saying that at the end of the day, if we get something like Naruto where you're not loving everything that's happening in terms of how it's happening, but you're still getting some of the major checkpoints checked off, right? We get Zoro versus Mihawk. We get Luffy versus Blackbeard. We get the One Piece creation. We get some Straw Hat's dreams checked off, stuff like that. That's the bare minimum ending I'm looking for. Dragon Zeldan, welcome to the Supernova. Thank you. I wonder if people are upset about the Bleach thing. I'm just talking about the truth of what it was at that time. And I promise that it's not as though everyone suddenly became way smarter in 2023. It seems, at least from all Bleach discourse I see, it's just people watching Thousand Year Blood War and being like, you know what, Bleach wasn't as bad. It's like, you can't judge it based off of this. This is like $1 million thrown into the production quality, and it's only the good half of the arc. You haven't gotten to the stuff that everyone complained about yet. So you gotta wait a little bit before you get to that, right? I don't know. Yeah, I think we kind of got it right with Bleach back then because it was just such a. This wasn't like the Naruto ending where it was some people liking it, some people disliking it. I remember with the Bleach ending, it was universally viewed as a joke. Whether you were a Bleach fan, whether you were whoever, it was kind of just like, holy shit. Bleach fans were the most upset because they were like, they were under the impression, and I don't know the truth of this or not, but lots of Bleach fans were furious because they were under the impression that Cuba was being forced to end the series early, and they're like, this is a terrible ending. You can't end the series in 10 chapters, etc. Right? So, it doesn't matter if Kubo actually was forced to end it early or not. If all the readers are feeling like the ending is really rushed and all the fans are trying to find someone to blame, be that the publication or whoever, that should tell you that there's something terribly wrong with the ending. It's not polarizing. It was not like Attack on Titan's ending, where I hear some staunch defenders and a lot of haters, more haters probably than defenders. The Bleach ending was universally just like, what the fuck just happened, right? You get maybe 5% of Bleach fans, the diehards, being like, well, we still love the series and, it wasn't that bad. We still got to see this and that, and like we can look forward to some like post-Bleach content or something like that. Rodolfo says, thanks for answering my question. Oh, for sure. That's what I do. GDN says, Marineford only had 50 Marine ships, and the worldwide total Marine fodder is about 1 million. Seraphims replaced the Warlords, so Egghead is comparable for sure. I don't think the Seraphims are as strong as the Warlords are yet. I think they will be eventually. But I don't know if Oda's keeping that much track on the numbers on this one. It's hard to say because, like, here's the thing. The Alabasta War alone, it had millions involved. It had like 1 million or something like that, if I recall correctly. So it's like, you're telling me that all of Alabasta could basically take on the entire Marine Force in terms of numbers? I don't know. I don't know if Oda keeps that much track of the specific numbers. Kali D. Suleiman says, speaking of Rushed, have you watched Evangelion? No, I've not watched all of Evangelion, but I've watched enough of it in parts because my roommate used to watch Evangelion. And he would have it on TV when I would come downstairs to see. Sampat Sakesh Revolprati says, will the ending be rewritten for Bleach anime? I don't know. I would love to see it be rewritten. I gotta order something real quick, which is food specifically. Tay says, thoughts on Beckman being the one to take Kid's arm? Yeah, do people think that Beckman took Kid's arm? Is that the consensus right now? It sounds like it, and I guess my take on that was basically... Oh shit, what did I just do? My take on it was basically... Hello? This is just going to look like this from now on. My take on it was basically that he probably beat the shit out of him, then pulled out a sword, and then just cut off his arm to close the deal, sort of. Because, we've seen we've seen stuff like that before with, like, like Kaido just pulling out a sword to kill Orochi, stuff like that. So, even characters that don't normally use swords can pull out a sword to just, like, do stuff, Okay. Alright. I will have food. Oh, people are complaining about HelloFresh and Factor? Listen, I don't eat those literally every day, but I do use HelloFresh and I do use Factor. Like, that's... For me... Okay, you guys want to know my diet? Okay? For me, if I'm streaming, I like to treat myself, okay? That's just the way it is. If I'm streaming, I like to treat myself. I want sushi after the stream. That's just the way it is, okay? Because I feel like, I just want to order some takeout, basically. That's it. But in general, I eat super duper healthy. That's the reality of it. Crunky Crucker says, Morj, I felt Naruto versus Sasuke should be before the last arc. What would you change? Also, okay, hold on. I felt not. First of all, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 4 months. I felt Naruto versus Sasuke should be before the last arc. What would you change? Also, are you ever going to watch clips again? Would we like to see your reaction to Raizo versus Fukurokuju? I'm probably not going to watch clips again because they got taken down. So if they're getting taken down, I'm just like, I don't want to. It's just not worth the risk, right? It's not worth the risk. I think that Naruto versus Sasuke, I do think that was good as the final fight. I definitely think it was good as the final fight. I don't want to. I don't like talking about Naruto that much just because I feel like I come across as. It's just a series that I never cared that much about. So you guys might be surprised to know this, but out of the big three, Naruto was the one that I was always the least into. I was a big Bleach fan for a time. Middle school me, there was a period of time where I wasn't sure what I liked better, One Piece or Bleach. They were neck and neck. I liked them for different things. So Bleach was one I was more invested in. For me, Naruto is kind of like a series that I always had to hear people talk about. When I say always, it's like I didn't really talk about my love for One Piece and stuff in school. I did like a little bit, and then people, in high school and stuff, and people were kind of like, One Piece, that's so stupid or whatever. I have a grudge against Avatar: The Last Airbender because the one time that I talked about One Piece in high school and stuff to my friends and how much I loved it, they were all like, well, it's not as good as Avatar: The Last Airbender. Avatar's way better than some anime shit. And I was like, this is so fucked because I love Avatar: The Last Airbender, but I have to criticize it to explain why I love this other thing, and they should give this other thing a chance. Long story, anyway. But before Avatar, anytime, like, talking about anime and manga, I don't know if it's more okay in schools nowadays. I don't know. But when I was younger, that wasn't really a thing, so you kind of, kept that to yourself. The one thing people would occasionally talk about, and, like, if you were a particularly bold kid, I suppose, you could see kids walking around in Akatsuki outfits and stuff like that. But I think there was at least one time I saw that at my school. But in general, like, Naruto was the one thing that was kind of like, Dragon Ball and Pokemon don't count. We never count those, right? Naruto was the one anime that people could mention or reference, I suppose, that was something that was known, I guess, that you could talk about a little bit. It wasn't the weirdest thing to say you were into Naruto. I also went to a predominantly Asian school, so that helped a little bit. But if I brought up One Piece, then that would get into a bit of an argument of, like, what's better than One Piece and Naruto. Same thing online. One Piece versus Naruto, that was just a discussion, right? I was never the biggest Naruto fan. I dabbled. I enjoyed the first part of it quite a bit. Never really got into Shippuden too much. Read most of it later on, right? So, for me with One Piece versus Naruto, it was always just a series that I never cared that much about, okay? I just didn't care that much about Naruto. I was a little unhappy with its existence and, like, how that was popular and people knew about it and stuff, and I was kind of always just like, well, I feel like One Piece is the better series, the better story. I wish One Piece enjoyed the same level of notoriety that Naruto did. That would be nice. But I didn't care about it too much, right? Because I just didn't. It was like, anime manga is just not something I've been talked about much with people IRL, basically, right? So, as Naruto is coming to an end, and I see that the Naruto fan base is going down in flames, and they're really upset about it and all of that stuff, and I'm reading, and I'm kind of not enjoying either. I'm just like, it's like, I felt bad almost, because I never cared about the series enough to hate it, but I also didn't want them to have to experience a bad ending, and I would have liked to have seen a good ending too, but I also was also a bit like, cool, well, now One Piece stands alone as, like, clearly the best series, because Bleach is going down the shitter, Naruto is, I forget if Bleach had already ended or whatever, so One Piece is king now, and that's basically what happened. We entered a new era where One Piece was basically the king of, just online discourse, I suppose. Then My Hero came along, stuff happened. Isaac Safe says, how can Oda fit in Shiki now when other legends end? I don't think Shiki's ever gonna be a thing, really. Tom says, Morj missed my super. Wait, let me check. Sorry if I missed it. Okay, hold on. I missed a few. Hold on. Hold on. On this ending scale you crafted, where is Jojo Leon? Says Tom. Closer to Naruto. It's about Naruto. Definitely, it's basically Naruto. I mean, they're different, obviously, but I would put Jojo Leon's ending at, yeah, I would put it at Naruto. Here's the thing about Jojo Leon's ending. I will always say this. Jojo Leon had the coolest final villain stand, I think, easily. Not easily, there's other cool final villain stands, but I felt that Jojo Leon had the best final villain stand, and usually the final villain stand sets sort of the it sets the vibe, the feel for the final segment of the story, right? So how well you vibe with what's going on with the final villain stands matters quite a bit. If JoJolion was one of the earlier JoJo parts, right, where the plot was looser, character growth and stuff didn't matter, like just actual writing stuff didn't matter as much to me, and it was more so about just cool stand stuff or cool fights, I would even rate JoJolion's ending a little higher, right? It does the... It's weird. It's weird because that final segment is both the coolest section of the story because of what they're up against, but at the same time, that's when all of the writing stuff is coming together, and it just feels so sloppy and rushed, right? So, it's just hard to say. It's hard to say with JoJolion. I would say it's like similar to like a Naruto-esque ending in terms of quality, but what actually happens is very different, right? It's not like I felt like, oh, he had to end the series out of the blue or something like that. It's kind of just like, no, it seems like it ended right about where it should have, but it, like getting there, he kind of had a lot of sloppiness doing the steps to get there, basically, because he kind of just didn't do a lot of it or thought of it too late or something like that, which I think is different. Shinkai9 says, what do you think about the Bleach FB arc? Fullbring arc? I didn't care for that one personally. I was always one of those that felt that, like, I mean, it was fine. It was just not particularly, it was just so low stakes, I suppose. There was some really weird, spooky shit that happened, I remember memory-wise. I don't remember it fully, but some really cool concept stuff. It's just that stuff that it's hard to scale. Like, with a series like Bleach, it's very hard to scale back to suddenly we're at a point where Ichigo has no powers. He's got these cutesy, dumb, full-bring powers and stuff like that. It just feels like we suddenly went from, like, way up here to these really street-level type fights or whatever, and it's just hard to care. It's hard to care a lot, especially when it feels like it's going to be very temporary. There's some cool stuff that happens with his memory stuff, or like people's memories and stuff like that, and it's like, wait, how does this change everything? And then it's like, okay, it really doesn't, and turns out this was just an excuse to bring things back to normal and show off some cool abilities of the characters we know and stuff again. And like, yeah, I just didn't care for it. I personally feel like, yeah, especially with it, it's just like you're watching Dragon Ball Z and you see Goku defeat. It's not like every threat needs to be greater than the previous one, but it's so jarring if, like, you're watching Dragon Ball Z, Goku fights Frieza and stuff like that, and then suddenly Goku's lost all his powers and now he's just fighting some martial artists in a dojo or something like that, and we're supposed to care a little bit, and then it's kind of just, he just gets all of his powers back again at the end. I don't know. That was my take on it. I don't even remember the arc that well. Sampath Sakesh Revolpati says, will the ending be rewritten for the Bleach anime? I would love to see Kubo include any ideas that he felt he didn't feel like including, or felt he maybe didn't have the time to, or whatever the case was. I don't know if his publication got cut short or not. I don't have enough knowledge on that, but I would love to see maybe more fleshed out stuff. I don't know. Rei says, the worst part of Naruto is Boruto. Yeah, I guess. Isaac Safe says, oh no, we covered this. Alright, what did I miss in the meantime? Justin Holland says, I like to think that with Awakening, Gear 4 is much easier for Luffy to use. Maybe it makes his other... Yeah, maybe. 2, Luffy taunting Lucci was Emperor level. Yeah, I said this before. I like the way that he did it, which was in a serious manner. Like, it was just very calm, straightforward. It felt like an Emperor thing to say, you know? Grand Smiley says, favorite Hunter x Hunter arc? I mean, Chimera Ant, I feel like Succession War could easily overtake it for me. Succession War is so tricky because it was getting really, really interesting, I felt. It hit a peak interest for me. Then it's delved into more because it's covering different areas of the ship. So it has delved back into more setup. I do think it's verging on a point where the amount of setup and the amount of character, it's tricky because I do a full video on it talking about the Succession War and why it makes sense that he needs to cover so many characters. But at the same time, I feel like it's verging into a territory where it's just like, we probably don't need all of this, and you already had a really good setup, and it's good that you're fleshing out more. It's clearly going to lead to a huge, crazy, chaotic, climactic conclusion, which I'm very, 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 very excited for. But, yeah, the arc is, I think it was a progressive build to a peak level of interest. Then it has shifted scenes somewhat, and now it's having to build again to make this other section of the ship more interesting. The tricky thing is, I think that what it was doing before was inherently more interesting, so I can become more interested in what's going on at the bottom stuff, but really what it's leading towards is a huge payoff down the line, right? So, favorite Hunter x Hunter character, I don't want to spoil Hunter x Hunter. It is, I'm just going to say Hisoka, and then there's one particular character from the Chimera Ant arc that is my favorite, but I feel like if I say it's my favorite, then that will skew people's opinions watching the Chimera Ant arc from scratch, basically, because they'll probably know that they should be looking out for some good stuff from a particular character. Favorite Nen ability, my favorite Nen ability is, I don't think this is a spoiler, because this is just what happens, right? This character gets an Nen ability, and that's established pretty quick. Favorite Nen ability is Serednix, and it's funny because that's also just pulled straight from JoJo's, but it is just what it is. That's my favorite Nen ability. Papa Dog Sucker, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 5 months. Please make an Usopp vid. Thanks. Love you, Mr. Mork. Usopp vids are tricky, because it's just like, I've done Usopp videos in the past, and it's hit or miss in terms of how much people are receptive to Usopp discussion, because, you know, he's a character that can't... Oh, let's get the stream likes to 600. Let's get it to 600. Yeah, he's a character that, like, people are hot and cold on, right? When Usopp's good, people really love him, but other times he's just not a very entertaining character to have around compared to, like, you know, a Zoro or a Sanji or Luffy. Mr. Crescent says, what do you think of Mayuri versus Pernita in Thousand Year Blood War? I really liked the matchup and how weird the fight was, but hated that we never saw the ending. I'm going to be honest, I don't even remember. I don't even remember. Sorry. People like the Fullbringer arc? Here's my take on the Fullbringer arc. I think it's a really cool arc in the wrong place in the series. That's what I remember it. It just wasn't... We're coming off of the high of Aizen and all of that stuff, and we're being dipped into this stuff that feels inherently fillery. It feels inherently fillery. The stuff characters are... The abilities being... It just felt like a waste of time. We're learning about Ichigo's new Fullbring abilities and stuff, and these Fullbring abilities, and it's just like, it's so clear that these are not going to be significant for most characters. The one very interesting thing was the direction it went with the memory stuff, which I don't remember fully. But it also had very little impact going forward, right? So it's going from a very, it's going from some stuff to something that's much more tight, I suppose you could say, character-based and psychological, but at the same time, it's just, like, not what I was interested in at that point, personally. At that point in the series. Uchek, thanks for being a Yarnco tier member for 5 months. I appreciate it. Tom says, can we get manga Morj streams for each JoJo Lands chapter? That is an idea. I think that could be cool. I think that could definitely be cool. I am going to call the stream in a second, though. Probably 5 minutes. Wrench Dodger 2000 says, doesn't remember the memory stuff. Interesting. Yeah, very suspicious, huh? There's a lot of questions about other series right now, which makes me think that I should do streams for Manga Morj, but I don't know. Sorry, I'm just skimming. I'm skimming to get an idea of basically how much I should talk about other series versus not. Because people tend to get upset when I talk about other series. But I also get the sense that there's no One Piece questions remaining right now, so I think I can talk about other series. Cheesehead302 says, give us Wanovid or give us death. I've said this before. I'm scared of releasing the Wanovid. It's a very scary video to release. Jordan Taylor says, I don't like the end of Fullbring because it means we have to go back to Soul Society storylines. I just wanted more chill arcs in Karakura. Yeah. It depends. I don't really care about the... Here's the thing. For me, Ichigo's friends, Chad, Orihime, the school friends and shit, I cared very, very little about them. I didn't even like Ishida. So for me, I think all the most interesting characters to me were also Soul Society characters. So I have a different take on that personally. Kingdom, I still gotta read. Yeah. Shoot Mania Andy says, thoughts on Kaguya in Naruto? I feel like there wasn't enough foreshadowing, and she was there to jumpstart Boruto. We have the same views on Bleach. Yeah, I mean, Kaguya is kind of... I'm with the consensus opinion on that, which I thought it was dumb. I don't like it. I don't like it. I didn't like Kaguya at all. It was kind of strange because I felt like... I understand why they had to do it, but... Because... I feel like he kind of wrote himself into a corner with the themes of the series that he really started pushing, which is that, you know, even someone like Madara, we can come to an understand, like, it's trying to resolve conflicts without conflict, right? It's trying to understand each other, things like that, right? That's the path to peace, which means that even someone like, doesn't matter who you are, Obito, Madara, whoever, something can be, you know, some saving grace can be found about each character, so that he had to ultimately go with a blank slate, like Kaguya. You just have to go with a blank slate who wants nothing else but basically something that is blatantly what nobody else wants. And the answer, like, so it's Kaguya, blank slate villain. She just wants to control, like, I forget, put everyone to sleep, some dream, whatever, basically. And the solution is just, and we're not killing her, we're just sealing her away. So it's just like, when you run out of ways to have just like an actual human character villain, you have to roll with basically just practically faceless, personalityless, just characterless, giant floating bad guy, right? And you seal them away, you don't kill them or anything, right? Like that, right? And then he could write the actual climax that he wanted, which was Naruto versus Sasuke, which again ends with no one really losing, just coming to an understanding. So it's like the themes of the series, he had to end up with something like that, but, you know. Umir Ula says, Morj, when can we get a gaming stream? Oh, okay, so here's what I thought about this a little bit. I realized I don't want to, if I do anything, right, so I wouldn't do Dark Souls, which I'm currently playing. I haven't had that much time to play it, because last week was super duper packed, but I got some time to play it over the last couple days. But I've realized that I don't want to play it as a stream, because that kills the enjoyment of any game for me. It's also part of the reason why I don't like reading chapters live. I've done it on occasion, but for me it hurts my enjoyment, right? I want it to be a very relaxing, just fun experience for me. I don't want to think about having to entertain people. I just want to be able to... Yeah, I don't even want to have to think about something like, would people like or not like if I spent more time doing this, or should I go back to that or something, right? So I don't want to do that. Also, Dark Souls is a frustrating game if you don't know. So playing that and also interacting with chat, it's just not something fun. You could say, well, just play it and don't interact with chat, but then at that point I'm like, why do it? So I'm like, okay, if I stream a game, it should be a game that I've already beaten, right? That I would just be replaying for you guys rather than for myself. So I'm like, okay, I could probably stream Sekiro. So I might find a day or something like that, just do a gaming stream on YouTube or something. Maybe next Thursday when there's no One Piece chapter, because there's a break. So maybe next Thursday I stream Sekiro or something like that instead for fun. That's my thought on that. But yeah, I've realized it's just like, it's not worth it to me to hurt my enjoyment of something just for the sake of streaming it and having some viewership, basically. It's just not worth it, you know? Blackleg says, please stream Melee. I haven't played Melee in a long time at this point. I feel like I'd be really bad. I can only put my focus into... Like, I've only got so much free time, and only so much free time that I would put into, like, play a game like spend playing a game. So I'm like, either I'm doing a single player game like Dark Souls right now, or I'd play Melee basically. But I can't juggle two things like that. I just don't have the focus or the time basically for that. So I'm probably gonna beat this game, then maybe I play Melee after that a little bit or something. Taketsu Jisatsu says Sekiro is the best FromSoft game. It's complicated. I was really enjoying Dark Souls at the I'm still in the early parts of it, but what do you call? I was really enjoying Dark Souls for the first several levels. I don't know if you call them levels, areas, I guess. First few areas, right? Now I'm at an area that I know is notorious. I'm in Blight Town, basically. I just completed the Depths, and now I'm in Blight Town. I know this area is notorious because, like, I'm kind of reading along, basically. Like, anytime I complete an area, I want to read what other people's opinions are. And so I've seen people say, like, oh, you enjoyed that, but wait till you get to Blight Town and stuff like that. I'm not enjoying the game right now. I'm just not. Because it's, so the difference between Sekiro and Dark Souls, right? Because we've deviated slightly from One Piece. The difference between Sekiro and Dark Souls to me is, like, the type of difficulty, which is that Sekiro's, they might be equally difficult. It's hard for me to really scale, right? Really scale that, right? They both feel difficult. But the difference to me is that Sekiro's difficulty is, like, vast majority of it is combat-based. And so it's similar in the sense that there's repetition, right? You're dying frequently, having to do parts again and again, like hitting your head against a wall till you can get past it, basically. But the difference with Sekiro is that most of its difficulty is combat-based. So it's like you are being thrown into situations over and over where everything is very fast-paced, right? So it's testing your speed, your reactions, your pattern recognition of new opponents and stuff like that, and figuring them out, and very fast decision-making, right? So it's a very adrenaline-based difficulty, and then you lose, and then you have to get up, run back over, do it again. But again, it's very adrenaline-based difficulty, I'd say, right? So it's all speed, fast-paced challenges and stuff like that, right? Dark Souls difficulty feels like the opposite, in that it's all very tedious, right? And I enjoyed that tedium for a bit, but a lot of the difficulty, like the combat isn't that difficult. Sekiro's combat is more difficult, but that's just one component of it. Dark Souls, you can get lost for a long-ass time and not know anything that you're doing. You can just be lost, right? You can realize that you need to do something or up something, or you upgraded something wrong. I didn't really know that you're supposed to put most of your upgrades into a single weapon. I was trying to spread them out, so then I spent some time farming, right? You don't have to farm in Sekiro, so you gotta farm, right? You gotta grind for a little bit, right? You gotta get lost. You have to grind. There's no fast travel, so you have to run. You run at a fucking snail's pace. So you can run from God knows where to God knows where to do something, and then you gotta run all the way fucking back, and then maybe you die along the way or something, and then a lot of it is very painful stuff. And then, like, getting through an area in Dark Souls can sometimes be, like, very, very meticulous in terms of realizing, okay, so I need to take out this guy, then I need to move forward this much to get that guy to come forward, and I have to wait for that guy to come forward, then I can kill him, because that's the safest way to do it, and then I progress. And so a lot of it is just, and then there's environmental shit that is annoying, right? And random environmental shit. So it's different types of difficulty, right? So it's like, when people are like, well, Sekiro's harder than Dark Souls, I played both. I will take this type of difficulty and enjoy it more than this type of difficulty. That being said, that might just be because I'm at a shitty part of Dark Souls at the moment, which is Blight Town. Because I really, really was loving Undead Burg, Undead Parish, and during those segments, even the Depths, I was like, you know, I think I like this game better than Sekiro. This is the first section where I'm just like, I'm not having fun repeating these sections, and it's annoying. You know what I'm saying? Sampat Sakesh Revolpati says, Elden Ring is cool, Morj, open world and accessible. Yeah, I'll get to that last. I'll do Dark Souls, then I'll skip Dark Souls 2. I'll go to Dark Souls 3, then I'll do Elden Ring. I would do Bloodborne, but I don't have a PlayStation. Zachard says, I've never farmed in a Souls game. I had to because I did my upgrades wrong, right? So initially, I've only really had to once, which is basically, I got to the gargoyles. I'm pretty sure I got to the blacksmith or something, right? And I had to go fight the gargoyles next, right? So I upgraded like several different weapons plus one, and then I was like, okay, upgraded my weapons, cool. And then I realized like that's not good enough. And then I looked up online and people were like, yeah, you kind of just need to just upgrade one weapon to +5. So then I went and farmed a bit for that, basically. So I've never farmed in that sense. You really don't have to because you're picking up enough souls that you can just consume anyway, right? Like those soul, like undead soul of soldier or whatever, or large soul and stuff. So you never really have to farm. But I'm throwing that in because I'm complaining, right? There is a sense of tedium, and you do have to run around a fucking lot, right? You do have to run around a fucking lot. You have to go from place to far away place and stuff like that. And when it comes to stuff like that, it's just like I'm pretty sure that's not an enjoyable. I guess not every challenge needs to be enjoyable, but it's just like that's not even difficulty at that point, right? Having to run from here to here and spend 4 minutes doing it, that's not difficulty. That's just tediousness, right? Which I don't think is something that I consider as fun of a challenge. You get what I'm saying? Leon Hart says, go to Andre the Blacksmith. He sells Titanite. Yeah, I know he sells Titanite. AJK, if you keep spamming this, I'm going to have to time you out. Just because you have mod status doesn't mean you can spam. You can get your jokes off, but you gotta, still chat for everybody, right? Joe Mama says Elden Ring is too cheesable. There's nothing wrong with builds unless you're into PvP. Elden Ring is too cheesable. I don't know enough about Elden Ring yet. Why have I stopped? Okay, I'll answer this question. Why have I stopped theories like I used to in the beginning? I haven't. My last few videos have been theories. Again, I think the Lucia Kingdom is a very good theory. That's to me, that's like a really good theory. I don't know what to say. If you don't like it, you don't like. I can't dictate whether you enjoy the theory or not, but I thought that it's a good theory. The murder mystery ones, that's more fun ideas, right? Which I think would be really, really cool. But I don't think that there's anything concrete to say like, oh, it's definitely the Doflamingo Seraphim. I just think that a lot of things are like, wait, what if it's the other Seraphim? That could be interesting. Yeah, I'm not trying to knock Dark Souls. Just keep in mind that like a few days ago I was like, this could be my favorite video game ever. Granted, I haven't played a lot of video games, but I was just like, I love this. I love the interconnectivity, right? People talk that up so much, right? I got to experience it. I remember going through the Undead Parish and then Undead, like the two Berg Parish areas and just feeling everything click. As it clicked, it feels so good. There's a sense of achievement I get from that is probably, it's different than Sekiro, but like it makes you feel really like big brained, I guess, basically, right? So I really, really, really enjoyed that. I didn't mind the tedious aspects and stuff, right? The depths, which I beat a couple days ago, I think. I forget exactly. The depths I did very recently, right? I remember going through the depths. It was so painful and like scary and claustrophobic, and I was just like, I'm feeling lost. Around every corner is something that might kill me, and then all of a sudden I've just like I figured out basically how to do pretty much everything, and I figured out like, holy shit, I'm at the boss, and the boss isn't that hard, and holy shit, I did it, and I felt so good beating the depths. Yeah, Blighttown is the first level that I was just like, this is not fun. I'm just like, I get it. Like, this shit'll jump out and it'll knock me off or something like that, or this shit I gotta look out for. This shit, like, I get it, but it's just, it's not fun, and I have a feeling that I'm not gonna. Again, not every challenge needs to be fun. The fun is largely from completing it and that sense of satisfaction. But it's just, it's fucking hard to see. It's like, there's just there are other aspects to it right now that I'm just like, I don't know. It feels a little monotonous, So that's all I got. Maybe I'll change my mind once I'm at the next one, Oh, here's one thing I should acknowledge though, because it's like, well, maybe you're just playing bad, right? One thing I do have to acknowledge about Blighttown is I didn't know about I was getting really frustrated with it, right? And something felt wrong. I felt like I was having to travel too much. So I did ultimately look up before I went to sleep yesterday, and there was a bonfire that I missed towards the beginning of Blighttown that would have made it probably a lot less frustrating and seem more reasonable to me. Because it's like, I know this game is difficult, but I feel like I'm having to travel so far. I'm having to travel from the depths all the way through this intro section, all the way down here to get to here, and there's just no shortcut, no stopping point. I'm having to travel so far. Turns out there was a bonfire that I was missing that would have probably changed my perception of it a lot, right? So that's my bad. Missed it. My defense, that place, it's hard to see things, I think. But I was starting to feel like, okay, this is like almost absurd. Like it's such a long journey at this point, basically. But there was a checkpoint, essentially. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, there's a checkpoint that I was missing that I could have been hitting. That's pretty much it. It's my bad. Maximum says Dark Souls is all about patience and timing. Again, like fighting individual things, I've never had a problem with in Dark Souls. I think like there's no. Okay, so here's the simplest way to compare Dark Souls versus Sekiro's difficulty, because Sekiro fighting individual things and beating individual things is harder by far than in Dark Souls. I'd say mini bosses versus mini bosses, there's no question. Sekiro's definitely harder. Bosses versus bosses, at least so far, Sekiro's definitely been a lot harder. The difference is in, at least in my opinion, everything, like, put it this way. In Dark Souls, beating a boss, like the gargoyles, can take me an hour. And in Sekiro, beating a boss can take me an hour. The difference is that in Dark Souls, that hour might be because the run to get to the boss is what's killing me, right? So I die, and then I spend several minutes just trying to get back to the boss. I might die before getting the boss, and then get sent back. And so then that there's a tedium to that process, basically, right? So there's a whole process to getting to the boss. Then once I get to the boss, it probably doesn't take me that many tries to figure it out and what to do and win, right? But the whole process of getting there, right? Getting there, making sure you have enough flasks and stuff like that, that's the tricky part. With Sekiro, if I'm spending like an hour to beat a boss, it's because I'm getting to play that boss over and over and over and over and over again, right? So it's like, that's the difference in difficulty to me. Like, the boss itself is harder in Sekiro versus Dark Souls, but it could take the same amount of time because Dark Souls makes you do some tedious shit to get to fight the boss again, basically. And then when you get to fight the boss again, you're kind of being thrown into it, and you're kind of like, okay, I really don't have to go back to the beginning and do all that running and shit again. So, there's some added pressure, I guess, to beating it, right? Which makes it more fun in a way. But yeah, I think that's kind of the biggest difference. Also, Dark Souls doesn't explain things. Sekiro does more of a job explaining things. So I mentioned earlier, I didn't realize that, like, the smarter way to upgrade weapons or even how weapons scale and stuff like that or what I should be doing. So I did some stuff wrong there. I didn't know that you can kindle, right? I didn't know what the fuck kindling or reverse hollowing and stuff was. So I was running around with 5 flasks for pretty much the entirety of, like, Undead Parish, Undead Burg, all of that stuff, basically. Then, after I beat the gargoyles, I found out that you can have 10 flasks. If you guys don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, that's fine, because I didn't know what the fuck that was either. The game probably explained that to me at some point or something like that, but I don't fucking remember, okay? So maybe the game explained that to me. Maybe that one's my bad. But, like, with Dark Souls, there's very little, it really doesn't. Sekiro holds your hand enough that you understand what you're supposed to do, and then just doing it is very difficult. The actual combat is difficult. Dark Souls doesn't hold your hand at all, right? So you can feel more lost, you can do way more things wrong. The actual doing things, like beating something, is not as hard as Sekiro, but the process of getting there is just going to be more tedious and take more time, because there's extra stuff. That's it. Joe Mama says, Morj, answer what weapon you're using. I'm using the Uchi Katana. I've liked that so far. I like that, and I stuck with it. Okay, guys. I don't know how you guys tricked me into talking for so much longer. Probably because I enjoyed talking about the game. Joe Mama says, nope, it doesn't explain kindling. It doesn't, does it? Right? The fact that I could be running around with twice as much health, I was so upset, because it's just like, once you realize that, once you find that out, it was confusing, because I was like, I know I had 10 fucking flasks at one point, and then now I'm running around with 5, and I can only run around with 5. Why is that? I don't fucking get it. Oh, right, it's probably not a big deal, probably just punishing me for some shit. once you realize that you could have had 10 flasks the entire time, it's just like, I'm thinking back, I'm like, that probably means that I probably wasted twice the number of hours in my life that I needed to. You know what I mean? It's like, I want my time I feel like I was robbed of real world, real life time from my life by 50%. That's not fair. Manga Kyo 3000 says respect for going into Dark Souls raw. I mean, I'm not now. I had to I looked up for Blighttown because it felt once I was in Blighttown, I was just like, I feel like I'm traveling too much. I feel like there's too much travel that I'm having to do, right? And not in like a, oh, I don't think I'm good enough sort of way. Like, not in like, oh, I think that like I'm just fucking up or something. It's more like, this is really, really long, even by this game stand. Like, I've played this game enough at this point that I feel like clearly I must be missing something, some shortcut or some bonfire or something like that, because it just doesn't make sense how long this is making me go without anything, right? And so then I did have to look up and found out that I'm missing a bonfire, which is basically a checkpoint that I could have been saving at that halved basically the travel time. So I'm not going raw in the sense that like I'm not looking anything up. I'm going to try everything without looking everything up, right? Without looking anything up. But at the end of the day, there's going to be points where I've realized like I will probably miss something and make things harder on myself. So if I feel like that, I will look something up. That's where I'm at the moment. I'm happy I went through the entire depths without having to look anything up. The parish without having to look anything up. So generally good. But I did have to find out that I was leveling my weapons wrong and that you shouldn't just spread it out over 5. In my mind, it made sense. I was like, well, you want more weapons, right? You have more weapons that are good. And then I'm trying to fight the gargoyles with +1. People are telling me that I should be at +5, stuff like that. Caleb Brown says, hey, Morjipu, sorry I'm late. Brago's discussion went 6 hours. They're in Brago's stream. But what did you think of Kid versus Shanks? A lot of people are saying Kid has a chance. Caleb Brown, because you've been a Yonko tier member for 5 months, I will tell you before I end the stream. I think that it's possible that Kid won't be made to look too bad, but the air that I was getting towards the start of the fight is that this is going to be another hype moment for Shanks. Oda's just giving off that sort of energy that like Shanks is about to look untouchable again. I think it's also very possible that they don't literally fight right now, but that maybe Kid challenges Shanks to a Davy back fight, which allows some stalling time, like as they prepare that. Maybe some stalling time so that then Luffy and the Straws can come in and join in basically shortly afterwards. Okay, guys. I think I'm good. Yeah. Jordan Taylor says Morj got bullied by his chat and did 30 more minutes of streaming. Honestly, I'm just going to say this, which is like, I did enjoy I did enjoy just going off on a tangent about the game that I'm playing because this is just, you know, it's a thing that I'm doing right now that I'm having fun with, but is also frustrating. And, like, I don't really know anyone in real life that plays this game, so there's no one for me to talk to it about. Cushion, who is one of the editors of Morj Unleashed and Manga Morj, does, but, you know, besides that, I think that, you know, it was nice to vent some of my thoughts about the game, basically. I think I'll be back on enjoying the game once I get through Blighttown. I don't know. Don't know what happens afterwards. Okay, guys, I will talk to you all later. Thanks for tuning in.